Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Sunday night. Well, you're here. It's Sunday night regardless, but welcome to the Sunday night hang, where we hang, we talk about gear, we talk about music, we talk about musical gear and gearical music. And, you know, we know he knows your gear, and tonight we're going to find out if he knows his gear. Yeah. That's what inquiring minds want to know. Friend of mine who's taught me a lot about YouTube, to the point of, I think, one of my first live streams, I said, I want to be the next Phil McKnight. He seems like a nice chap. And, yep, decided to do great things. Like, he showed me, you can wear ball caps in videos. Perfect. I like that. Definitely name the channel after yourself. That's a smart idea. That's brilliant. Yep.
We know so far these all sound like the bad ideas you picked, but okay, I'm with you so far.
And one fun fact, because I can't do 5 things you may not know about Phillip McKnight, but one thing you may not know, when he's not wearing a hat in videos, the man actually has a full head of hair and green screens it out for every single video.
This is absolutely true. That is a secret.
We're supposed to extra time and effort, and I appreciate it. Welcome, my good friend Phil McKnight.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. That you might be the only person in my life I've ever heard said, I want to be like Phil McKnight. So there you go. I don't know. That was a compliment, but so I appreciate it. There you go.
I just remember coming across your videos, long before doing anything myself, and I went, I like this guy. You referenced one of the first videos I saw of yours when it was, let's go buy a guitar at Guitar Center.
Yeah. Oh, Sam Ash.
Yeah, Sam Ash. Sorry.
That's important to mention always, because I like to always point out that Guitar Center to this date still will not allow you to film that kind of video there.
That's right.
Unless your title license from music is when.
Well,
I don't know if that's true. He just does it.
I think it's his haircut. That's what allows him.
Maybe it's just his awesome, huge channel. But I always think it's funny. Guitar Center always says no. So Sam Ash, Sammy, I love that video because if only the savvy people at that time knew what was really going on, which was funny, which is I had a music store. So there's no reason to go to a music store. I just didn't think that was a question. Everybody gets it, right? Like you get it. Everybody gets that. What would you buy if you had $200? What would you buy if you had $500?
And that's what hooked me, because I was like, exactly. Like, I'm like, he seems knowledgeable. Let's see what he comes up with.
And the whole concept was not for that video, but for every video is I don't want to give you a theory. I want to just see what do you how does this sound? Like, I don't know. Let's listen to it. Right. Like, that's how you know. Yep. So like, what would you buy? I don't know. I could give you 1,000 theories, but if I had my cash in my hand and it was in a store, I don't know. Let's see how it plays out. And what's funny was I reached out to Guitar Center, and the local one, I didn't go corporate. I went to local, and the first thing they said was like, well, you have a store. I said, yeah, I know. I have a store here in the Valley, but shopping at my store is boring video. I want to go to your store. Right. And they said no. And then so I called corporate before going to the next Guitar Center, and corporate said absolutely they don't do that. And then I gave up on the idea. And then out of nowhere, Ben Ash, it might have been Richard Ash. They're the brothers. I think it was Ben or Richard. Trying to remember. Sent me an email out of nowhere saying, hey, we really like your 5 things you don't know about the Telecaster. We're doing a Telebration sale. Can we use your video in an email link? And I said, absolutely, please, anything you want to use, any of my content, anytime, to anyone. And I said, hey, could I go to your store and buy a guitar and make a video? And he goes, sure, we'll close down the store. What day you want to do it? And I go, no, I just want to walk in and like, I don't need any special anything. And this is why I love telling this story, because the story is amazing. And he goes, okay. And this is why that video is awesome. We got there, and no one at the store was told we were coming, and they forgot about us. So I love that, because everybody always goes, oh, that stuff was planted. And I'm like, yeah, we know it wasn't planted. I mean, because I would definitely say like, oh, it's possible, right? Because if they knew I was coming, they could have done all kinds of things, right? But when we got there, they didn't know what we were doing, and they had to call corporate, and then corporate said, "Oh yeah, we could walk around and do it." And then we made that video. That was fun, and that's why I haven't done one since, because other than Sam Ash, no one else will let me come in the store and film.
I hear you. Well, excuse me. I want to get to roll call here. We already got 85 people tuned in. This is awesome. You'll probably recognize a bunch of the usual suspects in here. I'm going to start at the bottom and work back. We've got my lovely sister, Amanda. We've got Floop-de-Doo, Robot Master Switch, Mickey Settlemeyer, Brad Guitar Miller with his pedal to the metal fret rocker, which we both have, love, cherish.
I have mine right here. What?
See?
Product placement. I didn't even know he was going to be here, and it's hanging in my rack in front of me.
Love it. Hip Metal Works, of course, our good friend Lawrence, LPD Pedals, or Mr. Pedals, as I prefer to call them. It just, chicanery, mastery, all of it. Yep. Stephen Evanchek is here. Awesome to see Stephen here. We've got Ryan from 60 Cycle Hum. He loves Rickenbackers. That's all I can say.
That's all I know about him, too.
Yep. JJ's House of Jams, one of my NAMM cohorts. Awesome. Good to see Brother James. Brian Spalding. My Knees Hurt is here. Thomas Santiago. I always have to sing his name. Brendan Buttcheeks himself. Awesome. Charles 75N. Music Therapy Laz. Six String Brian. BC Rich 581. Terry Himes. Marxo's Images is here. AQ Music. Christian Hunter. Our good friends at Flipside Music. Probably Ike. Awesome to see Ike in here. Down and Back with Corn Doug, the #1 cornhole podcast. And I'm not just saying that because it's my cousin, but it's true. There's my other NAMM cohort, Aaron from Albus Band. Jeff Harper is here. The original Paramutant, James Severin, Dave Durango. Ooh, wow, now we're pre-gaming. Well, see, we can't leave out Quentin James because, what's a podcast without Quentin James watching? William De Silva, Tinkerbell, Rhodey's Jam Cave, and I'm going to say thousands. Oh, Paul Leonard Ewing. Do not want to forget Paul and Chad. Welcome all. You are not allowed to do that on the Know Your Gear podcast, Phil. That would be the show.
What?
Just shout outs. Just roll call.
Oh, yeah, yes. The roll call would be the show. Yeah, look, I used to do it at the beginning, just like I used to do the patron roll call at the end. And yeah, when the lists get long, you just can't do it anymore. And that's kind of sad. It's a sad thing. So I'll tell you, enjoy the hell out of it while you can. I get it on the back end now, in the idea that I timestamp everything I talk about. Mm-hmm. And when I do the timestamps after the show, I get to see all the comments so I see almost every comment because I'm reading them, as I'm timestamping. And every time I'm like, oh crap, oh man, like all these people. I'm like, Friday was my buddy Larry Mitchell asked me a question, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even see it. I didn't even see he was in the house. It's sad. I see all these names that I know. I see all these other channels. I see people, and so yeah, it's enjoy it as much as you can, because eventually it always goes away to some degree, and not the way you think. Everybody thinks like when you get a lot, it doesn't take a lot for it to start moving too fast.
Exactly. And I should also mention Ike at Flipside Music is also a NAMM cohort, since he supplies me with my NAMM passes. So I should definitely say NAMM cohort.
Yes.
And Adam D here, Dave Matheson, different Dave Matheson than the one that we know, just saying. But I'm not going to also say for that, because they go by other names, other places in life. That's fine. Who else I saw jump in there as well? Lovely Janice. I got to say hi to Janice Lala, because she's anywhere and everywhere and has supported me since day one. Definitely. So I want to say hi to Janice. So there's something else I was going to say. Totally forgot it. But that's fine. It's just like a NAMM show. Just overwhelming at times. But yeah. I will say, though, I did lift the reading off the Patreon names. I did that at the end of my Canucks with Guitar show. I do like to do that.
It's a great way to do it. Just to support the people. My live show is 100% sponsored by Patreon, the podcast, and that's important to me, because as we were talking earlier off screen, the podcast is 4 times whatever bigger than the YouTube channel, and I get $0 for the podcast. So, I mean, I don't, because I have patrons, but you understand, like there's no, the deal with the patrons is no outside sponsorship.
Yep, exactly. Yes. Let's see. So if you have any questions for either of us, definitely, ask away. And there's Fruitcake Tony, by the way. Thanks for the hat, Fruitcake Tony. He does a great show. Show me your pick. Love that show.
That's cool. I gotta see that. What?
Yeah.
Show me your pick.
He does a different band each week.
Okay, go on. I think I might have seen his channel.
Hosts and co-hosts, and the man has one of the best pick collections in the world. So he'll show off picks and other memorabilia while they talk about various bands and guitar players within the bands. It's a great show. I've appeared on the show.
I'll have to check that out. I might have seen it because it sounds like Metalhead Hippies kind of channel too, where he's going through music. You going through music as well?
No. Metalhead Hippie, it definitely does more than music than, these guys, like last night they did the Scorpions. So they did a show on the Scorpions.
Oh, sweet. I'll check it out.
I appeared on the Rolling Stones episode along with Janice, actually was on with me. And great stuff. Loved the show. And funny you had mentioned Larry Mitchell. That's what it was that I forgot. I was lucky enough, I joined the cast of a friend of ours, Dave Nesdall, on Nez Says on Wednesday nights. Right. And we had Larry Mitchell on Wednesday. And live on air, he played his double neck, Phil.
Oh, yeah, the famous one.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay. He just shows up. And, Larry, if you've ever done a podcast, he'll show up, and before he says a word, all he did was he zooms in, and he just starts playing that opening riff to In God We Trust on that double neck. Grinning, that Larry Mitchell grin, and we're all like, hands down, best tone, best everything. Thanks.
Yeah, it's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah.
And that guitar's got a great story and history to it.
Mm-hmm. Very iconic guitar and one of a kind. And
it's do you know this? Did you know the secret? The secret thing about the guitar, that it's a 12 string and do you know what the other thing is?
A D neck.
It's a D neck. That's
one
so
of
crazy.
3 D necks in existence.
Yes. And Steve I has the other 2, I think.
Yes. One is on one guitar. One is neck is on actually both necks, I believe, are on his Hart guitars.
Yeah.
That's where the neck went on the Hart guitars. And then he got Steve's permission to use the third neck.
Yes. So that's a great guitar.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Sean Hockey. I saw Tonefish in here. Great name, Tonefish. Love it. Thanks, Mayhem. He posted Fruitcake Tony's channel in the chat.
Awesome. I'll make sure to
nice phone call with Absolute Mayhem earlier today. He's going to come by and pick up one of his guitars that he lent me for a demo and going to drop off another one.
What kind of guitar was it?
I did a Indonesian Squier Telecaster Standard FSR.
Oh, yeah. See, there you go. So what was different? What was special about it?
That one, I think it was just the finish. It had a traditional kind of a burl burst finish, darker. And I believe at one time he swapped out the pickguard, but I think it came with a Perloid pickguard.
Okay.
As opposed to just a white 3-ply. And and of course in demo I point out he's added the locking tuners, which add at least 8% more tone, went to a flat white pickguard, which added another 12% tone right there.
That's 20% tone. That's all you need.
That's all it takes. Wow. Thank you very much for the donation, Doug. Evening, guys. Matt from Texas Toast. Okay. And Brad Ingrove said to say hi tonight. Awesome.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Those guys are cool.
They are.
They're usually on Sundays too. So they on at the same time? This round? No,
they go on right before me.
Okay. Because I usually watch the replay because I can listen to it in the background.
Yeah. I usually catch on replay too because I'm usually setting up for this. And I wanted to welcome someone else who usually goes live on Facebook on Sunday nights, my buddy Matthew Fry in here from the band, former band. The band members got back together and started a podcast. I love it because they're a great group of guys from the Dead Sparrows, a great punk band here out of Southern Ontario. And they decided to not do their broadcast tonight so they could tune in to us.
I appreciate that. That's very, very cool. Very kind of you guys.
Because he doesn't recognize that background of Phil's. Is it renovations?
Nope. This is my repair shop. This is where I repair. So what's behind me is pickups and guitars. And then what's in front of me, you usually see what's in front of me, which is tools. So like if you watched a video where there's tools, I'm standing in front of tools. That's what I'm facing because my laptop right now is on my bench.
Right.
So you're sitting on my bench, and then this is what's behind me. With my hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pickups that are everywhere. There's no compass that could ever work in this room. Like there's, so you know, I clean them up for the show when I do videos, but like there's these canisters are just like everywhere. I make these out of these tubes. I buy these from Uline. I buy these clear tubes, and then I buy the caps, and then that's where I can put all the pickups, and then I'll write on the bottom what the pickup is, what I learned about it, and so on.
Well, it's the modern day reusing of the jam jars, mason jars with random nuts and bolts and everything in them.
Yeah, well, except for I mean, I wish it was more reused and less, you know, from scratch, because then it would be more earth friendly, but because they're plastic. But for me, it just became easier to store them like this.
Sure.
In fact, oh yeah, I was gonna say there's all in front of me. Humbuckers go in 3-inch tubes, and single coils go in 1.5-inch tubes.
Nice.
So there you go. That's what you do with all your pickups. If you can't figure out what to do with your pickups, if you have a lot for some stupid reason.
There we go. Let's see here. Floop-de-doo says, now I know why Sweetwater is out of pickups.
I have a lot of pickups. Yes. I've been on a project for over a year involving pickups, and it's been a lot of work, but fun. And what I learned is you can't use
Ryan from 60 Cycle says he stores his pickups in Tupperware to keep them fresh.
Yeah, see, that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. I just didn't know. You can't put them in drawers. They can't touch each other. So, and you have tons of them in normal packaging too, as well. But that gets old too.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the amount of random pickups I have spaced around my workshop for that reason. It's like, here's a pair, and I have them just sitting on the shelf a foot apart. And then there's a pair over here sitting a foot apart, and a pair over here.
Yeah, it's...
Yep. Oh, of course, yeah. Brendan B. Squared stores his in empty cigar boxes. And I should say, he is a manufacturer of cigar box guitars. So it makes sense to store them in cigar boxes.
Can I grab a question if I see a question?
Sure, of course.
I don't know the etiquette. Daniel says what he wanted to know, what's the most surprising pickup that I've reviewed so far? I haven't released the video, but the most interesting pickup I reviewed so far is called the 44 Magnum by Mojo Tone. And if you don't know how, pickups are not really that mysterious. I love it when people go, oh, it's made of this kind of wire. There's really not a whole bunch of kinds of wire. All pickups are going to be 42 gauge wire. Only Tele neck pickups are like 43. And then 44. The bigger the number, the smaller the wire. Goes in unintuitively the other way. The 44 Magnum by Mojo Tone is made by 44 gauge wire. And you can imagine when they sent those to me, I was like, this is going to be horrible. There was nothing about that whole entire makeup of that pickup that I thought was going to be pleasing or interesting to me. But I was curious, right? And I felt like it was kind of shtick just to say that it was made out of a different gauge wire than almost 99% of the other humbuckers on the planet Earth. And I think they're really, really good. The video will be it's probably 2 weeks out. There's 2 in front of it. There's the Fortitudes with DiMarzio, and then there's some PAFs coming from a company in England. And then you'll see the 44 Magnums. So
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 things here. One from Aaron at Elvis Band. I had to point this out. He says, here's a question for Phil. Why is he such a good-looking dude? And then he follows up with bald man to bald man. Got to show the love.
Is that a question or a
I'm not alone, because funny enough, off there, Phil says, can you hear me? I said, you sound as good as you look. Yeah.
I can only tell you what I had. I've been married now for 22, going on 23. Well, 22 years. I'll be 23 in January of next year. 22 years of marriage. Here's what I had to do my whole life. I always have to usually explain to somebody why my wife is with me. That's usually the rule, right? They go, hey, and I always tell everybody the same thing. So I'm going to tell them the same answer. Work on your personality. My wife says she loves my personality. I believe that. I always tell people, I go, work on your personality. Yeah. So
there we go.
That's what I say about how do you get good looking. I don't know, but I know this. If you got to work on whatever attributes God has given you. And I've decided I would try to be as friendly and fun as possible. And it seemed to work on my wife.
Sure.
So
seems to have worked for YouTube thus far too.
Yeah. I mean, right. It's it's not a horrible thing to work on.
Exactly. Absolute Mayhem says, thanks, Ben, for the free guitar setup on the Telecaster. Question for Phil. What is your favorite non-live YouTube video he has made and why?
Oh, that I made?
I assume so.
Yeah.
One that I made.
Yeah, well, it could. I mean, I watch. Here's the thing. Well, first, let me start with this. And then I love YouTube Live. I wish YouTube loved YouTube Live.
Right.
Anyone who does live knows that YouTube, they even separate your analytics, right? It's like everything they can do to not make this experience as great as they possibly can. They've done. And here's what I love about live. It's unscripted, unedited. And so the BS just comes right out fast, right? So the question, I'm going to avoid the question. Not really. I don't mean to, but I feel like this is the most truthful answer. What I love, what's my favorite live video? All of them, because you make a few hundred live episodes and then people binge watch those episodes.
Right.
They get a real sense of how contradictory you become, how floppy you can become on issues, sure. Right? It's a thing to where if you don't lean into the truth and your personality as much as you can, you're going to be constantly trying to figure out how to remember. You know what I mean? What did I think and what did I say a year ago? So it's not a specific video that I love of mine or like of mine of live. I like live for that one reason. Sure. And if I thought more people could stomach live, I think the amazing evolution of YouTube could be, especially in the review category, is live review only. Because when I do a review, so much is edited out, but right. only for the sake of getting a view of not, a fear of like, oh, they'll dip out after, if I take too long opening the package or if I take too long doing this. But if you could watch a 20-minute review that was all live and unedited, you would really get an experience. And here's why I say that too. I have a rule. I film every unboxing. Every product I get, I film the unboxing. But 90% of the time, that never makes it to the channel because there's nothing interesting in the unboxing.
Right.
So if you see me unboxing a product, it's because at least I felt when editing, I said or reacted in a way that was so honest that I want you to see my reaction of either, oh my God, what happened? Or, oh, wow, that's amazing. Because I can't fake that. Sure. And you know what's funny? You could talk for 20 minutes, but your face could tell a story in 20 seconds, 2 seconds.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. I agree. I want to get this before it runs out there. Ted, thank you very much, Ted. He says, is a Floyd Rose on a Les Paul a tone killer? Well, I like to always cite precedents like we're lawyers or something. I swear as a YouTuber, you got to cite some kind of legal reference. And I'm going to say Alex Lifeson with his Les Paul Access. He's got wicked tone. So I don't think it's a tone killer.
Neil Schoen. Don't forget him too.
Another one. Exactly. And...
yeah, I don't know what would be tone killing about it. I mean, the only argument would be, here's a thought.
The removal of the amount of wood for
it's not the removal of the wood. Right. It's the before and after experience. So I like to present, like you said, precedent, right? Like you got to find a reference to this. I like that same kind of theory, but I like to use let's look at it like this, and you'll see why you get two different answers. if you told me you were going to take your Les Paul, gut out a big hunk out of it and stick a Floyd Rose in there, and you asked me if it was going to sound better or worse, I'd say I have no idea what your perception of the tone now versus tone before would be. But if you asked me if I went to the store and picked up a Les Paul with Floyd Rose, would I notice a massive difference in tone? Probably not.
Right.
Because you need the before-after experience to know what that bridge did. And it's not that it did something negative or positive. It's just, it's different, and you're going to perceive that difference in some way.
Exactly. I agree. I fully agree. Charles75N, again, thank you very much. Phil and Ben, ever drop a P90 in the bridge of a Strat? How would it sound, you think?
You want to go first? Go first.
It would sound interesting. I'd be curious to see. I would think that it would fatten it up and take more of those highs and move them into the mid range a little more.
Of course.
Where a Strat can sound a little shrill at times on just the bridge, depending on, like, especially if your amp's EQ'd more for a humbucker. If you switch immediately to a Strat, I find I usually do need to back off the highs a little. But I would think, it'd be definitely more mid-focus and just woofier, fuller sounding, but not like a humbucker.
It's gonna. I personally think it's gonna sound great. If you really want a P90 Strat, there's 3 ways to achieve that very cheaply, very fast. First, you can buy some quarter pounders from Seymour Duncan. Those are essentially P90s. They're made. It's again, it's anatomy, right? Think of pickup like anything else. There's an anatomy that's going to eventually get you somewhere in that range. The pickups that I think sound P90-esque are the original, or I should say the made in Mexico Fender Strat pickups that they were putting in those guitars until the change to the Player series.
Right.
If you look at those pickups and those guitars, if you were to take one out, everybody's seen one, like whether you've seen a video or you pull them out and the first thing you see is those 2 ceramic magnet bars on each side of the slugs. That's essentially what a P90 is. A big ceramic bar with a lot of power, and they didn't wind it a lot because that's one of the requirements for a P90. It's got to have a lot of wire on it. But they're still wound pretty hot. And I personally, if you see a lot of my single coil Strats, I have 3 single coils. A lot of times the bridge in that is a made in Mexico pickup. That's what I use. I'll grab one. And why? Because I took so many out of guitars over the years for customers, and I'd be like, and I'd always go, "Here's your pickup," and they go, "Oh, throw it in the trash." And I'm like, "I actually like this, thanks."
Yeah, exactly.
In my guitar, and I think they sound great. So I think a P90 would sound great. I agree with Ben. It's going to have punch and mids, which is something I like. My ear goes to that.
Yep. Lawrence says the more wire, the more it calms the angry pixies. 20% better tone. Well, there we go. If Lawrence says it, it has to be true.
Yeah, he's not wrong. The wire is good. It's also expensive.
Yeah. And I see fellow Canuck in here, Landon Bailey's here, and Terry's 3Gs. Canuck Brigade in here. Awesome. Grumpy Mike Guitar made it. And Nerd Halen. Love Nerd Halen, your #1 Van Halen tribute act out there.
He gave me a pick at the NAMM show.
That's right. Because I was hanging with Caleb when we met up. I remember that.
I posted a picture on Instagram, I want to say a month ago, of like 6 pics of people who gave me picks. And I could not for the life of me find the pick he gave me anywhere. And I was getting pissed, but I was like, I'm going to post it anyways. I posted it. And then 2 days later, I found the pick. It just wasn't in my pick container that I normally keep. It was in this other bowl thing.
Right.
So I didn't get to tell everybody he gave me this cool pick. But I like that pick a lot. I like the graphic of him. The Where's Waldo Van Halen thing is just cool as hell.
Oh, yeah. That's our Caleb. That's what I always say. That's our Caleb. And thanks, Jason. He says, I have a Gibson Firebird. Somehow I saw the F in Firebird and just went for Fender. Sure, Gibson Firebird 0 and Squier Paranormal Offset Telly. Modded both, but love my offset telly. What are your thoughts on both? The offset telly, I thought, was a very cool take. Firebirds, however, I cannot play any kind of Firebird type object. I find the way I always say, Phil, like if we look at left to right, if your SG where the bridge is in relation to my body.
Yeah.
The Les Paul kicks out a little to your right. The Firebird kicks out to the left. And I already find the SG is a little too far left for me. So when I play a Firebird, I strum behind the bridge half the time in my natural playing position. So I'd love to play one, but your thoughts?
Well, I like the Firebird. I screwed up. There was one on my Craigslist right before the COVID apocalypse. I didn't know there was going to be a guitar, boom, like everybody else. And somebody had one on Craig's for a really good deal. And I was like, oh, I really wanted one. I want to try one, you know what I mean? And play it for a while. Besides, you try everything for a minute in a store or if a customer hands you something. But to me, you have to spend some time with something to actually, get a sense of it. And I missed out. And now they're just off the charts expensive. I like offset guitars. They're really cool. Mm-hmm. My only thing is, well, actually, that's not true. One of my main guitars I play a lot is my Framus with P90s that's offset. So, I mean, that's a guitar that I just play a lot.
That's a nice guitar, too.
Yeah. It's just because it's exactly what I wanted, a hardtail offset with P90s. That's all I was looking for, So I love that combination of guitar.
Right. Matt Fry says playing a Firebird felt like playing a telephone pole. Well, funny enough, it was Matt's other guitar player in the Dead Sparrows who showed up at a gig with a Firebird. He says, hey, I just picked this up. And it was great because he's at that time, he was still in the military. He was I believe, navigator for search and rescue for the Canadian military. And so quite often he'd fly across Canada on training and things like that. So he was out on the West Coast, had some downtime, hits the music stores out on the West Coast, found a Firebird, throws it on the C-130, brings it back with him back here, and got a wicked deal on a Firebird. Hey, and there's Rob from Tesi Switch. Great to see Rob in here.
Love Tesi Switch.
Yes, he does Tesi switches and Helix knobs and Earthquaker pedals and
Master 8 picks.
Yep, that's right. Master 8 picks. Got a Master 8 pick right here. Boom. Is
that the rubberized one?
Yes. Yeah,
that's the one I like.
Yeah, they're very cool. Very cool. Yeah, can't forget the picks, he says. Can't forget the picks. That's right.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Quentin James says, tell Phil the volume knob placement on a Strat is perfect, and that's actually in the Bible. Fight me.
Yeah, but why would I argue with that? That's what I play as a Strat.
Right.
I'll tell you a problem I have, and I'll never be able to escape it. I make videos for now, mostly like viewers. Viewers send me emails or ask questions or talk about things, and I go, okay, let's make a video about that. Before, the videos were just like, these are things I'm constantly seeing with customers. Let me address this repair issue, or let me address this thing I'm fixing all the time, or let me address this complaint. Like somebody's like, I'm constantly hitting my hand on the knob, and you're constantly doing that stuff. In fact, here's a perfect example. I did a video just a couple weeks ago, and was on the Fender Tone Master amp. And I said, oh, here's 10 reasons not to buy it, and here's 10 reasons to buy it. And in the 10 reasons not to buy it, I said, hey, look, it doesn't have a headphone jack. It doesn't have any IR output. It doesn't have an effects loop. And I loved some of the comments are like, oh, Phil, why are you being so nitpicky? I'm like, well, I'm not nitpicky. I'm explaining what users are going to have problems with. I don't ever, A, use headphones, B, use effects loops, or C, ever use IRs. I don't do any direct recording. So that's why I bought it, and I don't care, but I'm experienced enough, and I've sold enough stuff, and I've fixed enough stuff to know these are things people are going to think about when they spend $1,000. So back to that Quentin James, sometimes I always find like I meet people and they'll go, why don't you like this? And I go, oh, I like that. Fine. Don't you notice that's what I always play? But I have to address it in a video as if you have this problem, this is how you correct it, because otherwise, every video would be like, I still love the 3 things I love, guys. See you next week.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow. Thanks again, Ted. Excuse me. He says, any experience with the Seymour Duncan SH5 custom? I heard Eddie really liked it, but didn't want Seymour to name it the Van Halen pickup. You're the pickup guy, Phil.
Yeah, I love the custom and the custom and the custom 5. And they're really good. There's a lot of stuff like that. There's also, that story is based on some kind of rumor, so who knows if it's true. However, I also do know, like, Seymour makes in the custom shop a pickup called the 78, which is also a clone of an Eddie Van Halen pickup. There is, however, currently, if you go to DiMarzio's website on their main page, there's an article that was written by Larry DiMarzio about how he won the contract to make the pickups for the first Eddie Van Halen Music Man guitar, and how it's very, one, transparent, but two, very, like, he just let you know, like, the truth, right? Like, he flat out says, like, Eddie loved the JB from Seymour Duncan, and that's the way they were going to go. And he barely made it. In fact, one of the things, the only main reason he got the contract was Eddie was using the drill in those tours, and the drill was demagnetizing the pickups. So DiMarzio, which now has a patent, had to come up with a new idea to patent and fix the problem and then patent it. So I wouldn't doubt that at all. Look, my experience with pickups comes down to this. There's a bunch of, in humbucker land, let's stick with the what I call the big three. Here's the big three. What I mean by big three, think about your great-great-grandfathers. The lineage is, everything is going to come from these three pickups. And I'm sure people are going to argue because there's probably 10, but these are the three. It's the PAF, the PAF, the JB, and the Super Distortion. Those pickups are in so much music. It's like the Tube Screamer. It's like the Marshall Head. You know what I mean? There's just so much of that pickup out there. So we know to some degree that obviously Eddie was using a JB, and to the idea that the custom is somehow based off something that Seymour made for these guys. Absolutely. Because a lot of these guys, Seymour and DiMarzio, which were the two big players at the time, and Bill Lawrence, these guys were making all kinds of artists custom pickups. Sure. And then the artist sometimes, like George Lynch, would sign a deal and say, let's make that pickup, right? But, a lot of times the problem, in my personal opinion, that's all stuff that's true. Let me tell you the opinion. I think the problem always comes down to the royalty deals. Royalty deals are generally 6% of sale, right? So you sell a product to a dealer, the artist would get 6% of that every time it sells. Guys like Van Halen, I can imagine, even though Seymour Duncan sells a ton of pickups, looks at that paycheck of like $60,000, and now you have ad campaigns with your face next to it and stuff. I can't imagine that excites him. He probably paid $60,000 a year to maintain his Ferrari and Lamborghini. You know what I mean? So it's possible that you're right. I've heard a ton of those stories from people at Duncan and DiMarzio that there's all kinds of pickups out there that these artists had. I like the custom and the custom. So I'm with you. In fact, I would put that.
I haven't had a chance to try either one. As far as Seymour Duncan goes, I've got some Duncan 59s in my knockoff Les Paul, and I have the Duncan JB in my Kramer, and that's just magic.
Yeah, the JB is, to me, the quintessential pickup of people hate it or love it, and I personally feel that the main reason people hate it is because it's just used so much that people just get like this generic feeling about things, and they don't like it. I mean, I'm not arguing with some people. Some people are going to put in the comments like, no, I legitimately hate it, Phil. Let me tell you why. Like, I'm not saying everyone is like this. I'm saying the majority of the people hate that pickup, hate it because they're just sick of everyone having the same thing, and they don't want to have the same thing. But that pickup, the JB, like I said, the JB and the Super Distortion, you got to understand, those pickups, when they came out, no one's seen numbers like that. Those guys were selling pickups in the millions of pickups, not dollars, pickups made. Every guitar was getting those pickups, ripped out. They're the reason why some vintage stuff's worth so much, because all those old repair guys were yanking out that old vintage pickups as fast as they could and throwing them in dumpsters. Yep. The JB and the Distortion are, to me, the equivalent of the Floyd Rose when it came out. Like, everyone at some point had to have it shoved into something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how many CBS era Strats were hacked up to put Floyd Roses and either Super Distortions or JBs in them, And because why? They were throwaway guitars. They're like, well, they're CBS. Only pre-CBS is worth anything. Like,
yeah. Well, and of course you gotta, the beautiful part of that day that we'll never have again is, that experience of turning on the radio and hearing a sound you've never heard before.
oh yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Now there's no such thing. You hear every sound and at some point you have a reference of it. You know what I mean? You hear a sound and you're like, how do they get that sound? You know what I mean? Especially when everyone essentially has access to the same dozen types of amps and dozen types of guitars. And then all of a sudden you hear a new sound on the radio and you're like, what is that?
How did they do that? Yeah.
Yeah. And that was either like a pedal or a pickup.
Yep.
So the pedals and pickup movement became huge. You know what I mean? As a driving force.
Exactly.
Of course, we forget it's mostly that talent, but
yeah. When everyone's playing through a modded Plexi and playing a Super Strat, it's like, but they didn't all sound the same.
Yeah. But the talent is the hard part, so that's why it's easier to go for the easy part, which is to buy a pedal.
Exactly. Let's see. Unbelievable was asking how you felt about your new LPD Embers, which we can only talk a little about.
Yeah. So I was literally, no exaggeration, this is my text I didn't send to Lawrence that I was working on before the show. So I've had it for a couple days now. It's very good. It's got a lot of low end response. Lawrence was talking about adjusting the low end response. I don't have a problem with how much low end bass frequency it has. Running through amps like the Dr. Z, which is basically the Maz 18 that I run is basically an AC 15.
Sure.
Right. So those amps those amps are so on the bright side that they can take.
You can throw as much as you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would flub out a Marshall in a heartbeat, but those are like, just take it.
And so I'm enjoying it. I like it. It's an interesting take on the Klon style concept. And what's interesting about it is I'd almost recommend it because that's what I think about. I don't know about you, but when I get a pedal nowadays, my world has changed since pre-YouTube, right? Post pre-YouTube, everything was about me. What do I think? What do I want? You know what I mean? How do I feel my joy? Now every time I get a product, it's well, who's this made for, and how can it benefit them, and how can I illustrate that, or how can I explain that, or show that to somebody, right? So that they can, because they won't get a chance to touch it. So I tend to talk in this language like this, like the odds of everybody having the Embers or having access to try it before they buy it are next to none. So you have to explain it in a way that may want somebody understand why they may want it or not want it. What I would say about the Embers, and this is just my first few days, let's say 4 or 5 days into it, I would say my description right now is if you don't love the Klon, this is your Klon. Because there are people that find the Klon, they don't get the hype. They plug into it and everybody likes it to some degree, but a lot of people do. We're all guilty of the everybody likes it, so I'm just going to tell everybody they like it thing. I've said this before, horrible thing to say out loud, but it's true. Jeff Beck was my fake like. I fake like Jeff Beck until I did one day. Like I told everybody's like, what do you think of Jeff Beck? I'm like, oh, he's amazing. Meanwhile, like no albums, didn't hear any of his stuff. I just knew that it was like, you're supposed to tell everybody you like him. And then one day, I listened to him and I go, this is amazing. Is this why everybody likes him? And then, so there's a little bit of that, and I think the Klon falls into that. People, everybody's like, oh, the Klon's the greatest pedal ever. And you're like, okay, it's good. And it is good. It's just, but this is definitely, if you ever tried a Klon, like a Tumnus or an Archer or something like that, and you plugged into it and you thought, man, it went from like really bright to not so bright. And there was not like a little, fattening warmth there, and maybe not enough gain because there's a little bit more. The Embers has a little bit more of the gain.
Sure.
I think this is a really cool pedal in the niche concept of this is for someone who's I would say the two players out there would want to try the Embers. Someone who has all the Klons or loves Klons and they're looking for a little slightly different Klon, or someone who didn't dig the Klons, this would be your Klon. That's my take.
Want to welcome him. We got Jay 7/8 in here. Awesome. Who was one of the panelists on Wednesday night's Nez Says with Larry Mitchell, because it was new guitar day for Jay. He actually tracked down one of Larry's old Ibanez's Dang it.
Ibanez
I asked this question. We couldn't answer. What's the plural for Ibanez? Is it Ibanez?
Well, Ibanez is a name. It's a last name, right? So right. it would be Ibanez's. Like it's yeah. I think.
But yeah, he tracked down one of Larry's old swirled what was that? The R series, I believe. S series? R series.
Oh,
beautiful. Yeah. And so we were talking about it. It was really nice. And also we got RJ Ronquillo in the chat.
Oh, RJ's here.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Ibanez thing is it's Ibanez's, because imagine a bunch of people with the last name Ibanez were coming to kick your ass. You would say the Ibanez's are here to kick my ass, right?
Right. But I noticed every time you like if you ask somebody, like how many Gibsons do you have? They'll say I have 3 Gibsons. But whenever you ask Ibanez, it's always I have 3 Ibanez guitars. They make guitars plural.
Yeah, I think it's because of Z, but
I think so too.
Will says it's still Ibanez. It could be.
Yeah. I'll stick with Ibanez just to be different.
Yeah, you could do that.
So yes. Again, welcome everyone that's tuned in. We got 141 people watching. Nice. And thank you, Terry. Yes, for those who may live under a rock, he posted a link to Phil's channel. You might want to check it out if you haven't already. Again, they probably live under rocks if they haven't heard of you already. So.
Oh, no. No.
So, yes. And speaking of one follow-up on the Embers, when you were unboxing the Embers, I keep forgetting that the Embers existed. Like, Lawrence will give me a little update every few months on the progress of it. And all of a sudden, you unbox it. And I was like, dang it. Right. Pick up the phone, text Lawrence, send me an invoice. And he's like, all right. He's like, artist pricing. I'm like, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, yes. So, I will have my Embers on the way soon. But then he says you got to sit on it till like August. Don't throw it a demo or anything. I said, I can do that.
Yeah. Secret. Yeah. And then I opened the box publicly.
Well, I figure I was just going to use it in like guitar demos as my dirty channel and just not say what's that? It's something you can't have, but you can someday.
He makes great stuff, though.
He does. I'm just looking down. There's currently 5 LPD pedals on my pedal board.
I use the 87 Deluxe on my YouTube board, which is the board I demo with. And then I have the 68 in my main board that I play in my room. Right. And then I change out different other LPD pedals here and there. But those two pedals always stay on the boards.
Yep, those are both on the board. In front of that to push them, I have the choice of either the Lost Dutchman, aka now the Dutch, which I love because that thing pushing both those is great. And because even though I had it designed as a lead boost, my nice drive A, I'm not gigging, so why not throw it in front of the drive pedals to boost the drive pedals with? And it works great doing that too.
What did I call it? When I was talking about it the other day, I wanted to make sure I said it right. What did I say?
I think you called it the nice drive A.
I think I did too. I was like, after I said it, it was one of those things when you say it out loud. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's right. I hope to God that's right.
And for those interested in getting one, Lawrence said if he gets 10 pre-orders for the nice drive A, he'll do a second run. So info@lpdpedals.com.
But it needs to be called another nice drive A.
Yes.
You should put another on the top, just in small print. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, I want to do a complete A line. That was my idea one night. Like he put together 2 delay circuits, and he seems to prefer the Rival circuit because that's the one he's got on the website. I said, well, I like the White Rabbit delay. Can I just spell it DELEH, the delay? And that'll be my signature delay. That's fine. Hey, Rory. Good to see Rory in here. Son of Boner Jams. Daniel Crow says, nice drive, is a great pedal. Highly recommended. Nice. I think Unbelievable has one too. Well, a few people did. We're sold out, so obviously a few people have them. Which, thanks again, everybody that took a chance and picked it up.
They're A couple people, I think Unfreaking Believable and Scott are asking how come I don't like noiseless pickups. You know, the term I would use definitely is I don't prefer them. I know I say I don't like them, but to say you don't like it means I wouldn't use it. It's not that I wouldn't use them. And so, you know, I have so many of them here in front of me. There's something about single coils that are just really nice. They have this top end sparkle. They kind of react really nicely with amplifiers. They do something that's great. And the reason I say that is to my ear, a perfect pickup is a humbucker. Humbuckers just are perfect. They don't make noise. They sound great. They just don't do that one thing, which is that one single coil-y kind of tone. So when you make a noiseless single coil, your brain says, oh, okay, now I'm going to get the one thing that I don't get from a humbucker, but I'm going to get noiseless. And instead, what I get is, and to my ear, all I hear is a thinner humbucker. It's not a bad sound. It's just, to me, they never sound quite like single coils. Now, somebody said about Lindy Frelin, look, there's definitely, if I was to, and that's probably, maybe that's a video I could make one day, or that's something I could talk about one day that makes more sense. Maybe taking 10 noiseless pickups, single coils, and rating them from worst to best, right? Mm-hmm. To my opinion. But I would imagine how that's going to work is, and I no exaggeration, the most expensive ones will be the best and the cheap ones are the worst. That's the problem with it. Some of my favorite noiseless single coils are companies like I think Yamaha's done it, Suhr's done it, where they take a dummy coil and they'll put another coil underneath the pick guard and they'll wire that in. It's again, I mean, obviously I like lace pickups, but lace pickups aren't noiseless. They're noise reduced.
Right.
They don't use a dummy coil. That's why they had that patent. Their patent expired, I think, 2 years ago or ish. You know what I mean? Years start blending. A few years ago, Lace's patent expired, but Lace had a patent on that design on the Lace pickups that we all know from the 90s. Those pickups are not noiseless. They don't have an extra coil. They are true single coils. They just use neodymium comb magnets and created another magnetic field that made it harder for the pickup to pick up all that noise, that 60 cycle hum, that unless it's a channel, we hate it. That's my, yeah. So yeah. But I mean, like I said, I don't dislike them. They're just not my choice. what I really dislike, I'm not a big fan of Fender's noiseless pickups. And especially now, this is whatever they're doing now is the worst because I keep having to fix them for customers.
Yeah.
Because they're using a PC board base and the board is flexing and cracking. Like I said, a 42 gauge wire is basically thinner than a human hair. That's already a mess to deal with.
Yeah.
Now we're dealing with trail lines and PC boards on the bottom of basically rubber tubing and screws, and you know what I mean. And
PC boards belong in pedals, not guitars.
It's just not my favorite thing. And the only good news I can tell you is, it's funny. I was making a joke about this literally yesterday. I was saying, man, I would love to demo the new single coils from Fender because I have 3 sets, but they are all missing one bridge pickup because every time I have a customer with a bad bridge or a Fender single coil noiseless pickup, Fender only sends the 3 set. So I get the bridge and then I have the middle and the neck left over. So I have 3 sets of middle necks from swapping the bridges.
Right. I hear you. Yeah. What else? Shout out. We got Will Varela here, Keith H, Michael Carver, Vanilla Slice, Kanan. Good to see Kanan here. James is tuning in from Phoenix. Well, we got a few Phoenix area people in here, with yourself, Unbelievable, and Lawrence, and who knows who else. Jay Steen just showed up, but he's in Michigan. That doesn't count. But he likes Lawrence's pedals, so it does count, he figures. I don't know. Sure. So, yes, keep those questions coming, folks. Some great stuff here. Somebody asked any experience with rail hammer pickups. Those are the ones, aren't they used a lot in Reverends, I do believe?
Yeah, they're the Reverend thing. I have very little to no experience with those pickups. That's what so that's what I've been working on, is trying to get more Reverends on my channel.
Sure.
It's tough. It's tough.
And,
you know, Ben knows it's tough. It's tough. It's a tough gig trying to get guitars on your channel.
Yeah, especially if you're in Canada, especially because of international shipping. So it's just it's even more of a hassle for the manufacturer, the YouTuber, everybody involved. So I get. Yes. And Will, I did know you've been here since the start, but I keep forgetting to shout you out, and you've been here since the start. So there we are. And Cowtown Customs is here as well. Good.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I will say, like Ike at Flipside, he's a Reverend dealer, and he was unable to make it to the last NAMM show. So he said, hey, can you go check out Reverend's new stuff for me? Give us some feedback. So I thought, well, what's better than one guy? Let's have three of us go. So myself and JJ and Aaron from Elvis Band, we all went over to the Reverend booth, and they were trailing behind me by a few minutes. But even showing up alone, Ken, the president and chief bottle washer, he remembered me from Summer NAMM the previous year, and which blew me away. He goes, yeah, you're the Canadian guy, blah, 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 and then they treat us like rock stars. They just placed us each in front of an amp, and they were handing us guitars to try out and this and that. Awesome. And I went, this is great. And, great guys over there at Toledo, Ohio.
Scott asked if I've ever tried wolf tone pickups. I have. I have a couple wolf tone pickups. So, as you guys know, some of you may know. Oh, I'll just don't assume. Let me explain. I'm doing this. I'm doing this video series where I walk and do demos of pickups. Right. I'm reviewing pickups, and of course, it was horrible. I started it literally the month of COVID.
Perfect.
I started 3 major projects literally the month of COVID. Sure. And all of them got destroyed from it. And the pickup thing was definitely one of the problems. And it was really hard. I mean, really hard to get sponsorship for pickups. And you need sponsorship for pickups. Pickups are something that just to give a reference, I just reviewed the Thornbuckers. So to give you a reference, the Thornbuckers cost me about $310. The video made $99. If I sell the pickups, I'll get $200. I'm in the whole $10, and it took me a whole day and a half to make the video. You know what I mean? It's not a complaint. It's just an explanation of why you can't do that by a 20 factor, right? Because there's no dividend. There's no such thing as a viral. Well, not that I can see on the internet. There's no such thing as a viral pickup video.
No. And all you can hope for is that X amount of people each day decide they want to get a Thornbucker and then need to find a demo on it. So literally, you basically have to bank an entire playlist of videos because the guy is going to be, or lady, they're going to be comparing pickups. So you literally have to have that catalog in place. Like if you do a single pickup demo on your channel, it's kind of a what's the point in many ways.
It's tough. And so I know that the success of, and this is my theory, actually, when I say I know, I feel the success of what no one's done with a pickup video is make a catalog of them. And a catalog could eventually pay itself a dividend because you might watch one pickup video of Thornbucker and then go, oh, he's also done Seymour Duncan and DiMarzio and Bare Knuckle and all these brands I've never heard of. And then that would really help those small brands because if you could do the Seymour Duncan one, and that might get views to get people excited when they're there, they might go, well, what's a wolf tone? You know what I mean? Or what's a smaller builder's pickup? You know what I mean? Because otherwise no one's going to look at those. So long story short, that's what all the pickups are for. I basically, at some point, had to make a decision. So I want to say November of last year, I decided, okay, well, I self-sponsored it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's why we're going forward. The problem is you're not seeing a lot of the content because I'm trying to release a few just so you guys know I'm doing it. But really, we're getting ready to just release a bunch at one time. You know what I mean? Just to get, because that's what I need you to do. I need you to binge watch them.
I agree. And thank you very much, Brad Guitar Miller. I always think Matt Guitar Murphy now. That's it. So special thanks to two of my favorite YouTubers. Thanks for all the pedal to the metal push. Glad to do it. Phil, have you ever used the Stew Mac and Cheese Freeway Ultra Switch?
Yes. So that switch is in the Somnium guitar. Did you say three-way? No, what did he say? Freeway, yes. So there's the blade version of that is in the Somnium guitar, and the toggle switch is. Oh, no one's seen it yet. It's in this. It's in a viewer's guitar for a video that I have that I've not finished editing. But yeah, I love that switch, it's essentially it's amazing. I'll let you do whatever you want.
Nice.
And
this is what happens when you get ahead on videos and you have time to edit and stuff. Like, I don't know. I've been running so crazy the last few months. It's literally, I shoot one, it's out the next day. I shoot one, it's out the next day.
I'd
like to sit down and knock out half a dozen one day.
I used to make them and then they go out. And now what I deal with is, I make them and then I go, okay, I'll go edit on them, and I'm editing them. And then sometimes something comes up, like I'm dealing with that right now. You get trapped into, like, I have a video that I'm working on right now that has to be presented next week, but you guys can't see it next week because it has to be presented. It's for Reverb. For Reverb, the pedal movie comes out at the end of the month. Right. And they wanted me to do a video. I believe there's 20 channels doing videos. I could have read the email wrong. It might be 10, but whatever it is, they're all just topics in the movie, right? And the idea was great because they let us see the movie early. That's all I cared about. Somebody's like, Reverb emails you and says, hey, the new pedal documentary is coming out. If you do a video for it, we'll let you see it early. I'm like, done.
I
don't want to wait. No, knowing it exists, I have to see it. So the deal was, I can tell you what it is, I think, because I have a pretty strong NDA on this. I'm pretty sure I can tell you. It's they wanted me to do the 5 moments in distortion pedal history that I thought were cool, right?
Right.
So the downfall of something like that is it's a pretty big project. It has to be shown to the person at Reverb before it goes to the public, not because they want any say-so in the video itself. They just need to make sure, for legal reasons, they want all the disclosures to be right. So I have to disclose that Reverb commissioned the video for me to do this, right? And of course they want to make sure I'm linking the correct link to the movie so that everybody can buy the Reverb movie.
Sure.
Which were pretty reasonable requests. Hey, what do you want to do? Because that's what she asked me. Hey, watch the movie and tell me what you want to do. And there was a moment in the movie, I don't want to give too much away, but there was a moment in the movie that spoke to me like, wow, I never thought about that. You know what I mean? And so that's what my video is about. This moment where I never thought about how, this part of the pedal, because it's the history of pedals, right? It's a documentary about pedals.
Sure.
It's the history of pedals. And there's a moment where they talk about pedals. And of course I literally go, oh my God, they're right. Like this for me, not for everybody, but for me, literally probably would have either been the decision to either be or not be a guitar player for the rest of my life. So there you go.
We got a few more cool cats joining in. We've got Nez Says, my good buddy, and your good buddy, Dave Nesball, tuning in.
Up, Dave?
Good to see Dave in here. And we got Mark from Tone Talk, who just came off talking with Billy Duffy on Friday night. I got through half of it because, like I said, I was listening to the background. It was great so far. Like I said, that's why I said I love these type of shows because you can just let them play in the background. It's nice when I'm working on things. I agree. It's like you get to learn about stuff, hear cool stories, and then, for me, a lot of times we've got 92 thumbs ups. Maybe we can get to an even 100 thumbs ups. That would be awesome. There's Randy Crooks. Matt Fry says, I'm a pedal nerd. I'm into it. Can't wait. I see that thing. I met Matt about 10 years ago or so. When I got back into the music, I started by doing sound production at local shows where, you have half a dozen rock, punk, metal bands play. And I was the guy who owned a PA system and showed up. And so I met Matt, and he had companies on his pedal board I had never heard of before because I was like, I knew about Boss, I knew about MXR, TC Electronics, Electro Harmonics I knew was back in existence. And that was basically it. And he's got like Way Huge and Keeley's, and I think he had an OCD before I knew what OCD was. And I was like, and then he played, and I was like, wow, listen to this guy's tone. He's better than everybody else. Okay. So I partially blame Matthew Fry for me getting into pedals. And now, I'm like you.
I realized the movie, which is, like I said, the movie's really cool because it feels high budget. Like it feels like a real documentary.
Right.
Like, so when you buy it, you have to buy it. I wish you could rent it. I don't think you can, but I don't know what it costs. It's probably $10 or $20 tops. But anyways, it's 2 hours and 18 minutes, and I mean, you watch it, it looks like something on Netflix. I mean, it literally looks like, somebody put some money into this. And and of course, as we all know, this is a subject that would never get, you know what I mean? There's never going to be a Netflix documentary or an Amazon documentary on pedals. So the fact that Reverb did was cool. But here's what it made me realize, which was really cool for me. It made me realize that in 2007, I owned 3 pedals, and that before 2007, in 2007, I owned 3 pedals. And then up until 2007, so I started playing guitar in 89. 89 to 2007, I probably owned a total, and that means selling, you know what I mean, getting a different one, 7 or 8 pedals my whole life. Like there was no reason to have pedals. And then in 2007, they talk about in the movie, the pedal boom, you know what I mean, that came from the recession. And then I'm like, yeah, actually, you know what it was? It was, for me, it was YouTube. Everyone on YouTube was talking about pedals. And then my big joke, and I don't know if it's a big joke, but this is my joke. I never dawned on me until I thought about it when I was watching the movie and stuff, talking about the fact that, yeah, like my whole life, everyone I knew was like, how many guitars you got? Like, I got 3 guitars, I have 1 amp, and I have 2 pedals. And that was normal, right? And if you met the guy that had 50 guitars, you'd be like, I have 50 guitars, I have 6 amps, and I have like 8 pedals. This was normal, right? Yeah. And then it never dawned on me that when YouTube and the boutique pedal boom and all that stuff hit, all of a sudden there's a new person, and it's like, I have 70 pedals, 8 guitars, and 2 amps. Like, it was never that way before. You never had more pedals than guitars and amps. And now it's like, that actually is, I think, very common. I couldn't say it's the most common, but it's very common that we have more pedals than guitars and amps, you know what I mean? And
like a big board for a guy in a cover band who needed to cover a lot of tone, you had 8 pedals on the board. Yeah. And that, and that was it. And you had 2 or 3 guitars and 1 or 2 amps. And then it just exploded, as you said, because there was a new demo every day. It was either, like TK was putting out something, or Shane from In the Blues was putting out something, Gearman dude. And then, and then Instagram, got in that early days, and you had Andy doing Pro Guitar Shop daily, little teaser videos, and I'd run home to check it, see if he did a longer YouTube video.
Yep.
Oh, forget about it.
And for me, what was great about them is, they were fun to try different sounds. You know what I mean? Try different things. Texas Toast in the house, man. Hey, Texas Toast guy.
Hey, boys, we have something cool to send to Phil soon. Awesome. Woo-hoo! Checking out a lot of Texas Toast stuff. Fine manufacturers of stuff. Just don't ask them to shoot nitro. Just don't ask them to shoot nitro. That's all.
Well, that's because they don't like nitro, and they have a lot of good reasons not to.
Exactly.
I mean, it is. I once had this conversation with Seymour Duncan. I'm not name dropping. I bumped into him in the NAMM show, and he was willing to give me 2 minutes of my time. 2 minutes of time, and this is pre-YouTube. I didn't have a YouTube channel or anything. I was just there for obviously business. And I was talking to him, and I just said, I was funny. I have the picture of him in my office. So it's a picture of me and him. Take a picture. I'm talking to him, and I said, "Man, you guys really innovated the pickup world." And he's like, "Oh, thank you." And I said, and I couldn't help it. Just in that stupid thing in your head, you got to blurt out stupidity, right? Not the question was stupid. Just I should have been smart enough to know this is not something you should probably say to him. I said, "Does it upset you that you spent your whole life like developing and evolving and improving the guitar pickup, and now everybody just wants you to make a pickup that was cool 60 years ago?" And he laughed, which I give him, I give him credit, because he could have been like, "Screw you," right? Yeah. But instead he laughed and he goes, "No, it doesn't bug me." He's like, you just got to go with what's, kind of going on in the market and stuff. Sure. And I always think about that. And Texas Toast is something I think about too, is like, the industry spends a fortune getting rid of nitro, right? They're spending, developing better products, developing better guitars. Yeah. And then one day, just because, you got to do what the customer says, the customer's like, "No, what's really good? Nitro with a PAF," right? Like everything my grandpa had was really, really cool. Make me that. And so that is a valued, the Texas Toast guys have a very valid argument that That is not the right stuff. But I try to lend myself to because I have both. You know what I mean? You have a nitro guitar and but I wish I could. I wish I could tell you I drink that Kool-Aid. Like, oh man, do they have it right back then? I just don't. I'm not there. You know what I mean?
I find it funny too because from a manufacturer's standpoint, like say like things evolve and it's like, no, it's got to be nitro lacquer. And you're like, okay, wood is not a hard like it's bad enough when they used it on cars, but like just a temperature change, you want your finish to flake and fall off, and can't hold color. Like it's a terrible finish on a product. When you think like all those 59 Les Pauls, half the bursts were shot within 5 years.
Yeah.
But we dig it for some reason.
It's because I think, and I've always thought this, I think you can't forget the romance part of this business. You know what I mean? Every time I get in trouble saying something on a video, or if there's some kind of, kickback with a company, it's always because I'm saying something like I'm about to say now, which is, it's dumb for us to like it. It's dumb for us to pay for it, but we do it anyways. And it's because just like when you love someone, it's not all logical. You can't always be in your practical part of your brain, right? I don't play guitar because it's practical, right? You know what I mean? Right? I buy certain things for practicality purposes. This is a good, efficient thing, and it's good price for it, and I buy that. Sometimes it's just romance. It's all just love. And I hate to say it, all that great music, because it's so great, all the instruments that made that music are always going to be revered. It's always going to be this thing that we find very sexy. You know what I mean? The joke I like to tell my buddies, and now I'm going to tell you because you're my buddy too, is one of my favorite things to think about is when you think about a 59 reissue Les Paul, and you think about the fact that it's $5,000. That's what, if you want a 59 Les Paul reissue from Gibson, it's $5,000, right?
Right.
And so you're holding this $5,000 guitar, and you have to realize for a moment that the real version is $500,000. And then I love it. That's why I said I love arguments. I love the conversation out in the internet, right? I love when somebody's like, oh, Phil, you don't need a $3,000 guitar. A $400 guitar is just as good. That's not even an argument that's really funny. Here's the really funny argument. So I have this $5,000 Gibson reissue in my lap. And Joe Bonamassa says, no, man, you need the $494,000, $95,000 one that's better. You understand, he's got to convince me that it's $500,000 more. No, what am I talking about? It's not half. It's $500,000. I'm right. $500,000 more, basically.
Yeah.
How do you justify that argument other than he has the money? And again, he's in his romance mind, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you got the money, here's the reality of it. I would never buy a $500,000 Les Paul, but I would buy a $500,000 Les Paul before I buy a $500,000 car. And so it's because I don't romanticize cars. I romanticize guitars. So I think there's always going to be that. This we love stuff because, the romance.
Crenard just jumped in. He's got to jump out again. Late night in Austrian. Crenard, thanks for stopping in, buddy. Get some sleep. Hello, James.
Thank you.
Yeah, diminishing returns. Exactly.
Grumpy My Guitar says, there's no logic when it comes to love. Well, absolutely.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
My niece hurt says, you can't buy a house where I live for $500,000. Not a lot of places anymore.
No, unfortunately. I live in Arizona. I loved it. I loved it here because it was cheap. We're now micro California. It's stupid.
Yeah. Tell me about, we're 100 miles outside of Toronto. The house that we live in, we've been here a year and a half. It's gone up in value by over 30% in a year and a half.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Because everyone's getting out of the cities more and, spreading out, which I get.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Ike says Denver's a micro Cali as well. I can see that.
Yeah, it's happening. I mean, obviously it's happening all over the country. It's happening in Texas. It's happening everything. I mean, I know it's not guitar talk, but it is reality of having the last 4 houses in my neighborhood have sold in the last 6 months, and all 4 sold for more than the asking price and cash offers, no finance. I mean, it's just obviously happening.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, Cushman. I don't know if I said hi to Cushman earlier or not. And John, yeah, let's not even get started on Vancouver housing. Ooh, Vancouver has been one of the hottest real estate markets for a quarter century. And literally every 6 months, they're like, the bubble's going to burst. I'm like, it's been 25 years. That's the market. That's not going to burst.
Yeah. That's why I like Guitar Talk, because that's the crap that we have to think about all week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this takes us away from that.
Yeah, I find that's where like I said, that's where I find my joy. I love the fact, my favorite thing to do when playing music, or my favorite thing about playing music, I should say, is I don't know why I can't daydream, but I can't. Like, I can't think when I'm playing guitar. Just play guitar. That's the moment, right? There's no like, did my daughter get her thing? What's the housing market look like? What's the price of timber? What's going on? Right? What's the COVID situation this week? None of that stuff enters my head. And here's where I say that all stuff, when I try to watch TV and relax, that stuff still comes into my head. Like, I'm sitting there watching TV and thinking about all that crap. But man, when I pick up a guitar and start strumming just a few chords, it's like all that stuff just disappears. Yep. And everything becomes about like, hey, maybe I'll play a B chord, and then maybe I'll go to the, you know what I mean? And it's just, I love that. That's why I said, that's why I love this so much.
And your microcosm within that would be, as I'm trying to dial in a tone, I can't quite get it. So I pick up the phone and text Lawrence, can you build this? Because I'm trying to do this. And he's like, I can, but I'm not building it for you as a one-off. I'm like, fine. Do a run of 25. I can't be alone in this, Lawrence. And he sends an LOL and then blocks me for 24 hours, I think, maybe. I don't know. Claims he got busy. Hello, Pete, another local picker from the area here. Pete lives about a mile east of me. Pete in Canada. Got to share the stage with him on multiple occasions when one of my old bands and his band would play together quite a bit.
I'm just looking at questions too as we're talking.
He said about Vancouver, yeah, you put up with the real estate, but it's got BC weed, so there is that. Yes, I agree.
Flipside music ad. Oh, go on. Sorry.
Charles was asking, how much was the nice drive, eh? I do believe $179.95 US, which is kind of the going drive rate from Lawrence, I do believe. Which again, I believe, Lawrence, since you're still here, info at LPD Pedals. If you want to pre-order a new one, maybe we can get 10 people to pre-order one. We got 157 people watching. Just saying.
That's very reasonable.
It is. And it's a great pedal. You may recall, because I know you've played with a few of his pedals over the years. He had one of his mini pedals, if I'm pronouncing it right, the Cholla drive. Cholla? Cholla.
I'm thinking Cholla.
Cholla?
I don't know.
He sent me one of those as a kind of a clean boost, and he says it's a clean boost Class A amp in a box. And I put that into a bass rig. Actually, I played through it into an Ampeg, and it sounded so beautiful and warm. I fell in love with the circuit, and we had been trying to figure out a signature pedal for some time. Ironically enough, my original idea for a signature pedal was what became the Embers. Just saying, Lawrence, 2 years ago, I asked you to make the Embers. Just saying. But I love the Cholla so much. I said, can you put this into a 4-knob situation and with this and this? And he's like, yeah, I can do that. I said, perfect. I said, there we go. We eliminated all the design part. Down back, Corn Dog says, if I played guitar, I'd get one. Yes, but at least he was able to find me Eddie Van Halen striped cornhole bags, which I'm waiting on still. So
nice.
Yes. Yeah, they were a cornhole bag company that sponsors him.
We call it corn toss here.
Corn toss? Okay.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Like I actually have 2 corn toss boards. I painted them red and striped them like Eddie Van Halen because
perfect.
And I have red and white bags, corn seed. But so it's always funny when I watch your 3,000 subscriber or listen to it. You guys are talking about cornhole. I was chuckling like a 12-year-old boy every time, like, oh, cornhole. I'm like, and then I figured it out fast. Like the first time you guys said it, I go, I wonder if they mean corn toss. And then I realized we probably say corn toss because we don't want to say cornhole and laugh.
Right.
So, or maybe
that's cornhole on the East Coast. Yeah, a few people are chiming in. So it was nice when unfortunately when Eddie passed away, Octane, who sponsors my cousin, and of course my cousin hanging out in this community here, he kind of said, Eddie's a big deal, and they're like, yeah, like everybody knew who Eddie Van Halen, it was household name. Right. So they made a run of bags and then donated the profits to the Canadian Cancer Society.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's what when I did the videos, I was upset about Eddie, and I did some videos. I donated everything to the cancer research. I remember because Pixie Steve from Boston called me, and he's like, oh, he was, because he was upset. We're all upset. We're all talking, and he's like, yeah, I didn't monetize my videos, and I go, no, monetize them right now. And he goes, no, man, I can't do it. I can't make money off Eddie. And I go, no, that's not what's going to happen. I go, trust me, you need to monetize your stuff. Just donate it to someone. And then what happened was his video did go viral, like 400,000, 500,000 views.
Right.
And then because something's in his video for 1 second, YouTube monetizes video and then kept the money, but they don't pay him, right? They just keep their piece.
Yeah.
And I said, see, you could have donated all that. So I think my video made $143. So I rounded up to $200 and just send it to the Cancer Society. I only tell you that because also you make content. Anytime you want to not monetize your content, let's say you want to make a video and say, hey, for this subject, I don't want to monetize it. Here's my best advice. Monetize it. Just donate the money. I just posted on Facebook, on my Facebook group, this is where the money went, so they know where it went. But monetize your stuff. Because here's why. YouTube and all those guys are going to still make their money. The corporations make their money. So might as well take your piece and give it to somebody worthwhile. So
exactly. Well said. Exactly. Hey, Craig, good to see you. BC Rich 581.
Hey, BC Rich 581. Okay.
Tesi Switch says, who's Rob? I never listen to anybody named Rob.
Let's see. I thought I saw another question too.
James. 95 pickup I picked up has a Wilkinson 3-saddle bridge. Middle intonation screw looks like it's bent slightly. I've read this is done for fixing an inherent intonation issue. Sound plausible?
That is actually absolutely correct. Trev Wilkinson has them. Yeah, they look jacked up. They're all adjusted for the correct distances in theory.
Yeah.
A bunch of people asked this. I guess Flipside and Grumpy Mike, they said, Phil, are you a Scorpio? No, I'm a Leo. My birthday's in July. But if you check the internet, it might say I'm a Scorpio.
Well, because the internet's always right.
Well, what happens is as your YouTube grows, your channel grows, you're aware that as Google searches grow for you, whatever you do, they're going to start gathering every piece of information about you and posting it.
Right.
So knowing that, I was very fortunate. One of the things I did very early on in the YouTube game is I reached out and started talking and hanging out with channels that have been doing it for 10 years, right? And saying, okay, here, look, I know I'm walking into whatever this is. I don't know what this is. Can you guys explain this to me? And they teach you stuff. And that way you don't have to learn it the hard way always. You know what I mean? Sometimes, but not always. And that's one of the things I learned. So one thing I know sometimes is if people Google things about me, if they Google you, like who's Phil McKnight wife? It's wrong. It shows you a wrong picture. I'm not doing that, by the way. I've just learned what to make sure that, right. Where they pull sources from, it really can't pull from anything makes sense. Because like I said, the internet does start growing a database on you. It's kind of weird. It's a weird feeling.
That's true. I saw another good question here. Where was it? There we go. Mike Davids. Question for Phil and Ben. Ever tried Winfield amps? I think they're from Cochise, Arizona. Came across one on Craigslist a while ago and thought, since you're from Arizona, I haven't tried one myself.
No. Here's the beautiful thing about my experience, and this is to say something nice about Lawrence since he's here or was here. There's a couple companies. There's Red Plate amps. There's Cactus amps. There's a bunch of amps here in the Valley. There was Crank, but that's kind of defunct now. It's funny to me what I learned. Me personally, what I learned is Lawrence was the only one smart enough to go, hey, there's a YouTube guy, and he's like 5 minutes from my house. Maybe I should go and say hi to him. He was the only one that came, and to this day, he's the only one that's ever sought me out. I get it all the time. Hey, did you know this company like Fano Guitars is like down the street from my house? And I've even reached out to some of these companies, which is why I don't want to pigeonhole all of them because it's not fair. But I have reached out to some of them, and with 100%, they've all said, "Oh, cool." You know what I mean? Like, hey, it would be great. I can come by and review some stuff. And they're like, yeah, we'll let you know. And then I never hear back. You know, not everyone gets YouTube is what I keep saying. I have to keep reminding everyone that's here. And Ben, I've heard Ben say this too. You have to remind people, like, you're watching this going, oh, why wouldn't a company want this either A, free, or B, super freaking cheap advertising straight to their exact customer, right?
Right.
But you're also assuming that people still understand this thing. And what keeps me grounded in it is I've had the same accountant now for 12 years, and he still doesn't understand it. From an accounting perspective, he still is confused every time we talk about anything that has to do with YouTube or anything I'm doing. And that reminds me again, as this is my business accountant who's done my business accounting for over a decade.
Right.
If I can't explain it to him year after year, how are other businesses going to get it? And so it's a slow industry. We're not the video game industry. We're not the makeup industry. There's a reason why when you go to no offense to, obviously I'm old too. When you go to the NAMM show, it's all silver hair. We're older guys, older girls that love music, right? There's kids here for sure, but they're not in abundance. And so therefore when I deal with YouTubers that are friends that are not in the guitar community, that are YouTubers outside, they'll talk about their marketing person and they're like, oh yeah, Jenny, who's 26 is my marketing person. Usually when I talk to a marketing person at a company for YouTube, it's usually either A, someone's nephew who was given the job, like, why don't you handle it, Davey? You've been on the internet once. Or or you get what I love to point out is the marketing person who talks to you and loves to remind you on the phone call that they normally get to talk to real rock stars and real people, and that their boss is making them talk to you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this funny story. I won't tell the company because that, again, I don't want to kiss and tell too much, but it's a funny story. I once talked to an amp company who I was only talking to them because they stopped me, right? I'm walking down the NAMM show as you do, right, Ben? And a company walks up and says, hey, we'd like to get some product on your channel. And I go, cool. And they said, here, talk to our artist guy. And I called the artist guy. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And I called him, and he didn't call me back, and he didn't call me back, and I called him again. And third time, he called me. He called me while I was getting his car washed. He's at the car wash, having the car washed. He's like, and I know that because he tells me, he's like, I'm getting my car washed. I thought I'd call you back. And I'm like, cool. And I said, yeah. And he's like, what can I do for you? And I said, yeah, the person I talked to at your company said you'd like to send an amp out and have me do a video with it. And I guess, we need to figure out how to get that out and how to get it back and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, I really don't understand this. He's like, I deal with Rush and Kiss. I don't understand what I'm doing talking to you. And I said, oh, do Rush and Kiss do free promotion for you all the time? Do they?
Yeah.
I said, I think, and I was, of course, people, because they see me as like a nice person. I am a nice person, but I am very to the point, which is what I was him, is to point out right then. I said, yeah, I think the reason your boss had you call me is because your free promotion will pay dividends. So why not do it? That's why we're on the phone. Right. And of course, because your YouTube gig, you have to take that. But realistically, if I had 1% more respect for myself, I would have just said F off and hung up. But I went with it. You know what I mean? But it's sure. And of course, you have to remind yourself that it's not so much he's a jerk. That's part of it. it's that he doesn't understand, that some dumb dude in his bedroom at home gets views or whatever, right? I get that. I get that it's hard.
Yeah.
I only tell you guys these stories, and of course Ben, because it's grounding for everyone, right? Everybody only sees hey, all the YouTubers got sent a pedal. There's that, and then there's, for every one of those, there's 10 companies who literally still do not understand what it is that even is valuable about this process.
Yeah. And even then, the like, say, the 20 YouTubers that get the pedal, you have to be a certain status. They just look up subscriber numbers, or, it's funny. I only ever had 2 people at the last NAMM show actually ask me, like, what's your market penetration? Like, what are your view numbers? Like, actually, I was like, holy crap, marketing. Awesome. Let's talk marketing then,
I find that most of the companies I talk to are totally inept and have no concept of this, how it even works. And when you see, when you see 20 channels getting a product sent to them, most of the time it's because it's as simple as either one, they send out an email because they buy these emails.
Yeah.
Social Blade and companies like that sell them. At this level, whatever the hell this means, at 300,000 subs, you're getting a lot of emails every day from a lot of companies. And I get it from makeup companies. I get it from, toaster ovens, right? All this stuff. Cause they don't know, they don't look, they just buy a list, right? Off these websites that calculate our views and subscribers. And so essentially these manufacturers do the same thing. They get 50 channels and they send out an email to all the channels saying, hey, we'd like you to review this thing. And then they have 20 things to ship maybe. And the first 20 channels that responded, get it.
Right.
So I learned this the hard way. As I go online, I research the product, I see if it's a good fit. Would my audience like this product? Would I like this product? And then I respond like 40 hours later. And then they're like, yeah, we already sent them out. If they're even nice enough to tell you that. Most of the time they just don't respond. So that's one thing. The second thing that you see all the time, if it's not that, and I'm telling you, because obviously you're out there hustling too to do this. You're going to have to deal with this for a long time. This is not going to go away. The other thing is, it's just like it always is. There's a good old boys club that's always existed, right? They know these channels. There are channels that laugh. I love to tell this because every once in a while, on my channel, maybe yours too, I'm sure. On my channel, a lot of companies watch my podcast, and I'm sure companies watch your podcast. And I enjoy this stuff because I know that they hopefully will get smarter from it sometimes. I have a ton of friends in this, like you, in this industry, but there's a ton of them that I have a friend that I won't, obviously won't say, but it's hilarious. He stopped doing YouTube 2 years ago. And in the last year, he's received over $10,000 in free products because companies just have him on a list from 5 years ago when his channel was actually active and doing well in this, right? And then since then he's backed off because, he wasn't really making a lot of money and it wasn't right. And we talk and he'll tell me, he's like, oh, I got the new blah, blah, blah guitar or a new amp. And I'm like, that's funny. And it happens, you know what I mean? It happens all the time. They just, they don't look, and I get it because it's hard work. It's hard to figure out all these channels and what they mean and who's, what is Ben Coombs good at and what does Ben Coombs do that's unique from Phil McKnight or from, Tyler Larson or from, Tone Talk, right? What is different from these channels? What makes these channels unique? It's a lot of work. But what's funny is like I said, luckily over the years, I've friended a few channels, let's say maybe 3 or 4 that have, 5 or 10 million subscribers outside of our arena. One channel who's been a really good friend of mine has 5 million subs. And when you talk to them and I tell them these stories, they go, I've never heard of this. Are you kidding? Like, no, usually when I deal with an agent who deals with right. And not because they have 5 million subs, it's because the other industries really figured out real fast, like how much do I spend in social media? Well, 20,000 will net you $100,000 in sales minimum guaranteed. And they're like, that's a number. Right. And so, but the good news is, as I took in too much time telling you all this or talking, the good news is that people like Lawrence Petros have learned to be smart. Small guys, small builders are like, all right, I'll get with channels like Ben Coombs because he realizes that doesn't matter how many people watch Ben Coombs. All it really matters is that 99% of them are guitar players.
Yep.
Smart business.
Exactly. And I want to shout out, with speaker of pedal hustlers out there, Sean Pierce Johnson's in the chat.
Really great channel.
Sean here. And Andy Dion's here. And since you are a listener to the broadcast, and we've gone an hour and a half, I figured we'd go to the top of the hour if that's okay with you. I've been good for an hour and a half, so I'm going to pull out the old glass saxophone here because we've had a bunch of super chats, and I usually celebrate them with that, so I'm going to be good. But Mahogany says marketing is all about identifying the customer. Today's spenders are 30 to 50-year-olds. That's where marketing effort is directed. I agree.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and like I said, other companies, they're right on it. They understand social media. And I even saw the change because I've only gone to NAMM shows for a couple of years. Even from 2019 to 2020, I saw more of a change, more of a shift. Because they're like, oh, wait, you're the press, basically. You're covering the event.
Yes. Yes. It's there's always this argument about the value of YouTube, YouTubers, gear channels.
Yep.
I never try to argue that argument. How important are they? What are they cool? What are they not cool? It's not about that. It's simple. It's cheap. That's all you got to know. That's all businesses have to know. There's very few scenarios where a company who takes just a few hours of research can't make a dividend, make money working with some social media people. It's a very hard thing not to do. Companies learn it companies learn it all the time, as you know, right? Send out a free product to a channel and there's a dividend there. You know what I mean? Sponsor a channel, even small channels, there's a dividend there. It's a dividend, I should say. But it's, I look at it as both positive and negative. It lets me know.
There's one company, they reached out and they sent me a product. And it was interesting because they said, we don't even want you to do a video on it. We just want to get it into your hands so that when you're asked on a Q&A, you can have an informed opinion on it, having tried the product. And I thought that was a bold, effort on that company's behalf.
Yes. Well, because it's, you don't know where these hits are going to come from and what's exciting and what's going to do well. I'm just looking at comments too. I'm sorry. I get sidetracked.
I just laughed. Yes, like, LOL, I'm going to subscribe just because Ben hit the bong on a live stream. I'm like, well, it's legal in Arizona. It's legal in Canada. YouTube used to hate it. Then they relaxed things because they realized it's legal where they're broadcasting from. So,
right.
For God's sakes, it's a guitar channel. You might have smelled it in your favorite music store back in the day. I say back in the day because they outlawed smoking in stores decades ago.
Right.
When all guitars, no point in advertising from a smoke-free home because by the time you took home from the guitar shop, it already had a nice layer of nicotine on it. Flipside Music,
he said, small channels have been better to us than larger ones. What I've learned is you can't stop the bullshit. They can tell when you like something or not like something. You know what I mean? It's why, I don't know, how I'm not acquainted with all your viewers, but on my channel.
Yeah, you are. They're pretty much all the same, Phil.
Good. That's good. It's a good community then.
It is. It's a great community.
My viewers understand that some of the most public, pushbacks I've ever got were from companies that were upset because I wasn't talking about their product, right?
Right.
Company sent product and I sent it back. I'm not interested or has an issue or whatever. And it's because of that reason. Just because I say, hey, man, this is the best microphone you can get. No, that lands on deaf ears. Yep. You know what I mean? They're not interested in what you say. They're interested in what you do and how, how interested you are on it. So what I've learned is exactly that. If you get a channel that gets you a million views, but all it is views, you know what I mean? There's no interest in the product. That's not going to correlate to anything. And you can learn to see how that works. I mean, as a channel, you can figure out how to interact with your audience. You have to figure out first you have to build an audience. Then you have to figure out who they are, what they're interested in. And it's not about alienating them. It's not about saying, oh no, if I say this, they'll be upset. it's about realizing what they're interested in. Whether they're upset about it or not is irrelevant. Are they interested in it? So yeah, and I think that's great. Flipside's, well, I think Flipside is one of the smarter companies.
Great guys. Yeah, I remember I met them. I met Ike in a chat one night on a small channel, and I was like, this guy's cool. He's like, yeah, like we're all about the mom and pop situation. And I checked out the website, and I was like, okay, they have some cool products. And then we just built a rapport through social media. And then I'm trying to think. I think Ike and I did a hangout, and then he got me some NAMM passes, and we met up at NAMM, and I was just like, yes, you're the music stores I miss. You know, the non-corporate, like just some cool guys who gig. I love the fact that I can go to a music store and actually talk to a gigging musician. Oh, what a concept.
Right.
Yeah. Music Therapy Laz has a great question. And, you know, much like yourself, I get a lot of fellow YouTubers watching. You know, it's sort of like school, right? What class are you in? When did you launch your channel? Like I'm a class of 2018.
Right.
And Music Therapy Laz, great guy, great channel. I was on his channel on Thursday night. It says Hennings managed to put a value on his demo/reviews. Is there a way you guys can evaluate your influence on sales of products you demo? Yes, actually.
I got to read that question again. Okay, so the question is, I understand the statement. What's the question? Is there a way that you can elevate your influence on sales and products you demo?
Evaluate.
I don't really understand the question.
Basically, you say, like, can you put a price on your influence? Like, you can say to a company, like, go to a pedal company and say, look, I can demo your, you know, overdrive pedal at this price, we'll say, and they say, well, why are you worth that much money? And that's where you can say, like, I can do this much market penetration over this amount of time.
Right.
I guess.
That's unfortunately, that's not my issue. My issue with companies is first of all, I'm horrible to deal with. I've said this a million times. I hope I say it a million more because it's important. Because it is important to give credit to some of the companies that I say, like, oh yeah, they don't want to work with the channel. It's important to understand when I tell people I'm not really easy to deal with. Henning, you brought up Henning, so Henning's a great example. Henning and I are good friends, and we're bipolar opposites in how we think. Yep. Right? Our friendship
being friends with both you, I agree.
Yeah, we have different thought processes, different ways we think of things, right? How we approach issues and things. But I think that's where the friendship comes from, is I respect his way of doing business, right? And I don't know, I think he respects the way I do business. But I mean, he is aware of it, because obviously, think about this. I can name 10 companies that Henning has great relationships with and constantly does videos with. And those same 10 companies, me and them probably would have to have police involved. We can't be in the same room. We hate, right? We just don't get along.
Right. But then there's 10 companies that love you and maybe don't care for him.
Yes, yes. And so the problem I have in the way I do business on YouTube, well, first problem is that YouTube is not it's not about how well it does or doesn't do well. It's what I'm interested in. I didn't come to YouTube to make money. I've said this a million times. I put my first video out, I think just put it out, out there on 2014. I started making videos late 2015, 2016. So 2016 is when I started making videos, really when I'm like, oh, maybe I'll make videos all right. 2017 is when I monetized my channel. I hadn't monetized it there. And to give reference, and this is always important reference, and only channels now people have reference of it. 2 years ago, I could tell the story and no one would understand it.
Right.
Then I didn't monetize
right when I started.
Think of this. I didn't monetize my channel until I had 30,000 subscribers and 25 million views. Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, it wasn't even something I was considering. Right. It was a different time back then. You know what I mean? You didn't even have to qualify to be monetized. They just wanted you to monetize. Right. The reason why I didn't do it was because I was escaping to YouTube. I was like, I'm going to do this in my bedroom, show people some cool stuff. Actually, there's funnier than that. I wasn't even making videos for people. I was making videos for Ralph, my buddy Matt, Nathan. Like, there was a list of people that I made videos for on Facebook. The videos were just for Facebook. And then a buddy of mine, I think it was Joe, who said, put it on YouTube. I did that. The reason I say this is it's in my perception of my YouTube reality is everybody crashed my party.
Right.
Like the first time I had a video get 100,000 views, I was actually annoyed for a week. I was like, it's cool. It was flattering. It was cool. But I was like, I hope this isn't going to be a thing because I don't know how to control this. Like, right. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll have to shut this down because I wasn't really trying to talk to anybody else. I was just trying to talk to A, my friends, and B, maybe some of my customers, which were at that time my friends too. Right.
Right.
So YouTube wasn't this thing. And then it started taking over. I had no control of it. You know what I mean? By the time I had 100,000 subs, and again, I say this because obviously I'm very aware that people are out there. Your channel is a good channel. As you know, it's hard. It's hard to get 1,000 subs. It's hard.
Oh, yeah.
And so all of a sudden you have all these subs. Like I said, I started doing the live show just because I was like, I'll do the live show every week and talk to viewers so I don't have to answer all the emails, right? And I can just talk, right? And it was like 30 people. And it was amazing.
Right. Yep.
And then that just started growing. And again, I don't mind any of this stuff. It's nice to, it's like your channel, it grows. As your channel grows, it's nice to grow. But that wasn't the goal of what I was doing. So the problem for me was by the time the companies came around, it was different. Like Henning and I, and again, because Henning's my friend, I don't have a problem saying this. Henning was like, okay, he's got 10,000 subs and he's monetizing his channel. The company should pay him. Literally, I went to the GitCon in 2017 in October with 5,000 subscribers. At that point, two things didn't exist for me. One, I didn't own a computer or a camera. 100% of my videos were made on this exact same phone I'm still holding now. And an interface. I had an interface for Mike. So all the videos were that edited on the, in fact, I still have the app on the phone. It's the Power Director app that I paid $2.99 for. And that's one. So I bought a computer, a laptop to go to GitCon because I was like, I don't want to go with all these YouTubers and then think I'm not like real. And the second thing that happened is I had never interacted with a company other than F Pedals, Mono Bags, and one other small company had sent product to my store. They found my physical address and sent it to me, and then I did a video. But like there was no pay me, sponsor me, give me free product. There was no discussion like that. My first real interaction with somebody like that was like Panama Amps, right? They were like, "Hey, we want to send you all the amps. How much do you charge?" And I was like, I don't charge anything. Brian Wampler too. That's how I made Brian Wampler. Brian Wampler said, "Hey, I want to send you an amp, his new amp and 3 pedals. I need to know your rates." Actually, that's how I became friends with Henning. I reached out to Henning because I'd met him once, and I said, "Hey, this guy's asking me my rates," and Henning's like, "Yeah, you got to tell him what you charge." And I go, Why would I charge a review a product? Like, I don't understand the concept here. And he's like, well, you do it so you get paid so you can pay yourself. And I go, now I'm not making fun of that because at that point you have to understand, like, my store was around for 12 years. It was the largest Fender dealer, PRS dealer in the state with the largest lesson academy. I say that because, obviously it paid the bills, right? Sure. Yeah. So I'm paying, and I have a repair business and I have another business too. So I'm like, no, I'm doing YouTube. And then as YouTube grows, you realize like this is fun, right? Sitting and talking like what we're doing now. This is my day off Sunday. This is what I want to do with my Sunday, right? I'm not here for any other reason than Ben asked me to come on and hang out and talk about guitars and YouTube and stuff. And who the hell doesn't want to do that with somebody cool like Ben?
Well, I try.
So I had to learn this game as we went. And because by the time, and this is all by the grace of God kind of thing, by the time it got to a point where I'm like, well, maybe I should start working with companies and not because I can't buy everything, right? And that's what happens, as you know. You want to show your stuff. Once you show your stuff, you're out of stuff, right? And everybody's like, check out the new this, check out the new that. And like I said, your pocketbook's only so deep. You can only go so far with this. And I tried, like an idiot, I tried to do that. Well, I'll just take all the money I make from YouTube and then buy the stuff and make that stuff. But you realize like that's not enough either. You know what I mean? It's just not going to pay a dividend. So the point to that story is that over the time, as I work with companies, I have all these weird rules now that I have to do because here's the issue I have. When I sit down to make a video, it has to be fun.
Yep.
I've done it. I've done it. I feel like I've done it 100 times. To be honest, I've probably done it 20 times, like 2,000 times. I sat to do a video that I told somebody I would do. You know what I mean? I made an agreement with the company to do it. And it's miserable for me. And it's not enough money. So when I talk to Henning, this is back to Henning again. When Henning goes, why don't you charge them? Actually, the biggest one was I had so funny was with Stu Mack. Stu Mack asked me to do some videos on my channel.
Right.
And I said, okay, I reached out to Henning, and Henning's like, this is what you should charge them. And I said, yeah, but I just want to do them. Like, I like Stu Mack. I just want to do them.
Sure.
And then what happened was Stu Mack emailed me immediately and said, no, we want you to do them for our channel. And then I told Henning, I said, what should I charge? And he said, oh, you should charge at least, I think it was like $500,000. And I said, look, let's be clear. I either want to do it for free or I want like 10 grand. Right? I either want to take my family to Hawaii or I just want to do it because I want to do it. It's got to, that's just the reality of what it is. It has to be something so exciting in some direction, financially or interest. So I ended up just doing it because I just, for ego purposes, wanted to be on the Stu Mack channel up there with Dan Earlywine and all those other people who do videos. And that's what I wanted out of the deal. So back to Music Therapy Laz, that's the problem I continue to have with companies is a company reaches out and they'll say, hey, we want you to review this, and perfect example, this microphone. And I'll say, yeah, I looked on your website. I don't like the Q7. Can I do this one? And they're like, no, but we'll pay you $500. I'm like, great. But I would rather do the mic I like than sit there and stare at a camera for 6 hours trying to figure out how to tell you I like something that I barely can be interested in.
Yep.
I get it. So yeah, that's my problem.
Charles. He's like, I think about this is a great show. I'm glad Charles is enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I will say, Phil, I hit a peak a moment ago. First time on my channel, we had 200 people watching live.
It's because you deserve it. It's a good channel.
Well, thanks. And again, I told you off air, I appreciate you with the shout outs each week during your show because, as you know, it's hard to grow things. And it's funny, without knowing it, I have modeled my channel after you in some ways for the fact that meeting a lot of who are now our mutual friends, like Tone King, Steve from Boston, and I'd show up at these events and they're like, so where's your gear? And I'm like, I have my phone, with an extended mic. And they're like, well, no worries, man. Like, instead of mocking me, they're like, no worries. That's what Phil was doing for the longest time. And every step of the way, yeah, that's what Phil was doing a couple years ago. And like, apparently I'm 2 years behind you. So maybe, I'll just ramp up at some point and, maybe certain companies will work with me. I know certain companies will not work with me as well, similar to yourself. So
you get that. There's all kinds of reasons for that. But that's why I think it's important. If you notice, that's why I try. Look, it's hard because the companies that I like, I want to lean into them and work with them more. But at some point, the audience gets tired of that same thing. So you kind of try to spread the diversity. And what I realize is that, you got to figure out, everybody's watching, but now I'm going to give Ben his, here's your advice, Ben. You got to figure out what your obstacle is.
Right.
I think that's the first problem I had. First thing I had to figure out. Because your first inkling is to figure out what everyone's obstacle is. And then you try to address that. But that's not your obstacle, right?
Right.
My biggest obstacle for me is that if I meet the company in person, I'm going to have a great relationship and we're going to send me gear and we're going to do great stuff. But in email format if all they know is my channel, there's things that you realize that you think, and viewers that are watching you right now that like your channel, you think they have a history of you. They remember the time when you hit 3,000 subs. They remember the time when you did this. They remember the time when you did that. They remember the time when this person was on your channel. There's a history there, a relationship history. But there's a lot of people that just watched one video you did. And if that video is your outlier, that's all they know about you, right? Exactly. So then when you're talking to a company and their only reference, here's a good story, it's perfect because you're going to laugh. I hope you guys laugh. I had to buy some Reverend guitars and review them. Why did I have to buy Reverend guitars? Well, like you said, the guy Ken, the owner, is a nice guy, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's what happened. I reached out to Ken. You have a bunch of viewers, just like on your channel, said, review Reverend, Phil. They're great. And I go, okay, I'll do that. So with obviously a heavy amount of subscriber base, I reach out to a company and I didn't know you would talk to him. I reached out to Artist Relations, and that was Ken. Yeah. And I said, hey, my viewers are asking about Reverend guitars. I'd like to review a Reverend guitar. Can you send one out? He said, responded back quickly. He said, which one? And I said, I don't care which one. Send whichever one you want to promote. I said, I'm really interested in the, like I've explained earlier, I'm really interested in the excitement of trying something new, and that will translate my experience because I can't speak with authority and experience on a product I've never had reference of. So the only way I can address the video is by excitement. Let's look at it. What's it like? I don't know. You know what I mean? You vicariously go with me down this journey. It's not like some other products where I'm like, oh, let me give you the 20-year history on this, right?
Right. And
he said, this would be the product to go, and I'll send it out. I said, great. And then they never sent anything. So I followed up, as you do. And he said, oh, yeah. Well, I didn't know who you were. And now that I know, after you emailed me and I talked to you, I checked out your channel, and we're not interested in sitting on a guitar. And I said, oh, why? And he goes, well, you're obviously very anti-Korean made guitars and very pro-American guitars, and we just don't think it'd be a good fit for your channel. So I said, okay. And that was the end. So these are the lessons I've learned over time. Because in my head, I'm like, well, that's dumb. I cite Schecter as like one of the best companies out there, made in Korea, great price points. But obviously now reflecting back, he must have seen a video where I'm like, 5 reasons why an American guitar is good or something. He saw a video, snapshotted that as my entire philosophy of life. Now, here's what's interesting. To his credit, a few weeks later, he emailed me, I think out of the blue, and said, hey, I went and looked more at your channel, and it looks like I was wrong. You seem to be actually pretty even keeled about all this stuff. He goes, why don't you come to our booth next NAMM and check out the booth and review the booth? I'm like, oh, okay. You know, so I did a video that was you saw it. I did a NAMM video where I walked his booth. He wasn't there though, so there was nobody to talk to. So I did a video of his booth, and that was in. And then at this point, I didn't feel like reaching out again. So I bought some Reverends and reviewed those. But my point is, that's what my illustration is. You have to figure out what your obstacle is. In my case, when I talk to a company personally, like this relationship here with you, and your issue with, or your relationship with your audience, my relationship with the audience, they get a sense of who you are, how you think. But until then, they'll watch a video, and you never know which video they're going to watch. And then they go, well, that's just how he thinks. You're going to go, this pedal's good, but it's a little high-endy. And he's like, oh, he hates.
Yeah, he doesn't like that type. Yeah, he doesn't know his tone or whatever. Yeah, yes. I agree on that. I see it. Yeah, a lot of people agreeing here and stuff. Dave says, and here's a guy, a guy I've known a long time. Went to school with my younger sister here. Dave says, Ben's awesome. Got a pedal from Ben doing a video like me. Sometimes you get it from him, or you give it a fun review and you'll be inspired to buy it some other ways. Thanks again, Ben. And that's, like you say, buying gear to bring, like I trade a lot of gear. I buy it, I sell it. Dave saw the demo. He goes, hey, man, do you still have that pedal? I'm like, yeah, it's sitting back here on the shelf. And he's like, you want to sell them? Sure, done. Move along. Well,
I've learned, and again, for me, that's what happened for me is I just realized companies will reach out. I stopped. I don't reach out to companies anymore, ever. They have to contact me. Right. The reasoning being for the sanity purposes. I'm done chasing that. It sucks up a lot of time. I don't have the time. You know what I mean? Right. I got stuff to do every day. So what I do now is, which you know the channel, you've seen it.
Lawrence is very. You've got to go build pedals. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. If companies reach out and want to send product out, I think it's great. And if I like it, I do the video and it's fun. And if they don't, I just buy it and do exactly what you did. I flip it and sell it. I sell it to a viewer, right? The viewers pick it up. It's a smart play. They already saw the review of it. It's great on Reverb. I just put it on Reverb and be like, watch this video. This is, if you want to know what the guitar or pedal's like, watch the video. This is it. I hate doing that in the core of it because it always implies like maybe I don't like the product because I had to sell it. Right. But I literally, I did the Sire guitar and the Reverend, and trust me, I was contemplating. I'm like, oh, I got to keep these. But the way I did it is I put money in a kitty, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, this is how much money I have. So I spent it all. I bought a bunch of product and I've been doing videos, and then I sell them, and then I put it back in the kitty and flip and buy the next thing. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, there's Dane from Zim's Guitars. Great to see Dane in here. And Lauren from L. Scott Music. Good to see Lauren here. And Bluesman's Guitar Art. A whole bunch of folks jumping in. And I figure we're getting close to wrapping up here, folks. We've hit 2 hours, which has been amazing. Awesome stuff tonight. Lots of great questions, comments, this and that. And I wanted to say on that subject, though, yeah, for me, reaching out by email, all they do is they're like, oh, you have 3,000 subscribers. You're a hobbyist. You're whatever. Like they don't even, they might look at a video or whatever. For me, it's always been the in-person. That's why, hell or high water, I get to the NAMM shows because they meet me and they're like, oh, okay, you're a pretty cool cat. We like you. And, and it was funny. I don't know if Aaron's probably not still in here from Albus Band. He had kind of pointed out to me after the last NAMM show with like Ken Haas recognizing me. He goes, we're leaving that day. And goes, I was like, wow, I can't believe, Ken remembered me from last NAMM show. And he's like, really, dude? There's not a lot of middle-aged Canucks walking around with hair down to their ass with a ball cap on. Like, you're kind of unique. They kind of remember you. You're you, mentally as well as physically. I was like, all right, well, thanks, I guess. He says, yeah, you leave a mark. So I'm like, and that's why talking to people in person has worked.
It's the in-person thing is the most powerful thing. It is important. It's important to make connections. The on your subscriber base, don't worry about that. There's no point has that not still daily thrown in my face at my level. Exactly. How many subs you have? 300,000. It's not enough. It's not even enough. The reality, though, is the real reality is I did a project because, like I said, I do projects for companies all the time. I did a project last year for a company, and it was a big project. It took me 4 months. And in that project, I worked with probably 40 different YouTube channels because that's what I was doing. I was doing the artist relations side of that business for them as a I don't want to say as a favor because they paid me, but it was really as a favor, right? But here's what I learned about that, which is interesting. I had a contact. Obviously, I made all these contacts with like 40 YouTube channels, and I got them to do this agreement for the company to get some products out there and stuff. And in that research, I had to get all these YouTube channels together and give them this company's information. There was over 1,000 gear channels. There's more than that, but I mean, I had 1,000 channels listed that I was following and doing all this stuff. So there's a ton of channels, and there was always going to be this argument about how many views you have and what your thing. But really, that's why I said you have to figure out what your obstacle is. And really what you have to figure out is, in my case, is what I did, is what is my audience really interested in, and how can that benefit someone who and how does it benefit the audience to have that company on your channel? That's really the argument. The companies want you to go backwards from that. Like when they talk to you, it's like, oh, well, how many subscribers you have, and what are they, it's because that's all benefit for the company. What I mean? They want to know how much they can sell and are they hitting the right market. But I found, that's what I said, for obstacle wise, you first think about all these viewers watching right now, and you think about what would excite them and what gets them going. And then think about this. That's what I said. That's how easy that conversation becomes with the company.
Sure.
I have these people and they love this. And if I talk about this and show them this, they'll be excited. And this is why you need to be here. Right?
Exactly.
And every time I know when I do it right, because just like you do it right. It's not how many views you get. It's not how many comments you get. It's minutes consumed helped because you let you know they're engaged, right? But I've seen it, and this goes back to flip side, talking about channel sizes. I have seen where I do a video and it will get, just to give a reference, let's say it gets 10,000 views, and I'll look at, and I'll talk to the company, and they've sold hundreds of thousands of dollars in product, and I'm like, that's insane. And then you get a video that gets 100,000 views, and that company sold 5. And I used to be like, oh, I must have not loved it, or I must have not been convincing enough, or maybe the vibe wasn't right, or maybe this wasn't right. And what I realized was, no, the alignment was wrong. The audience didn't want that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, like I said, so I always find you start with the audience, find out what they're interested in, and keep feeding them that. They'll keep coming back. You'll grow. It gets them excited because it's what they're interested in.
I agree. I want to thank Jay Steen. Thank you very much, sir. He says, happy to be here. Love the show as always. I keep playing them rolling down the road. That's right. Jay's a trucker, and podcasts like that, he loves this stuff, and tunes in when he can. I always know when Jay's been listening and he's on the road because, the 10, 15 minutes it takes for a video to process once you're done live streaming, he leaves a comment of just a thumbs up. And I'm like, perfect. I'm like, Jay's out on the road doing his thing. And I just love that. So shout out to Jay Steen on that. So
yes.
Flipside says, I'd rather have 1,000 customers who love us and patronize our store online or otherwise than have 150,000 subs who don't give a shit about us. Exactly.
Exactly. And that's why like I said, you have
like this group, like you say, Phil, like subscriber count, like, yeah, I have 3,000 subscribers. Where are they? They're not all watching, because some tune in for the live stream, some tune in for the demos, some tune in for my repair videos, some whatever it is.
Right.
And then there's the friends and family that just give you a sub for support. And we love them too. Right, Amanda?
I'm convinced most of my subscribers are just my customers wanting to make sure I'm still working on their guitar and not making YouTube videos.
Right. I post another video.
Every time I post a video, I will get at least 3 or 4 text from customers going, "Oh, hey, I'm just checking. No problem, Phil." I mean, I love them dearly. Trust me, but they're like, "No, just checking, Phil. Is that guitar done yet?" And I'm like, and I know deep down, I'm like, "Oh, did you see? I just posted a video. I know what you're thinking. You had time to make a video. You don't have time to finish my guitar." I'm like, "I know, I'm on it, but I gotta, you gotta figure out your day."
Yeah, exactly. I get a kick out. That happened. A few buddies that are in the chat. I'm not going to name names. A video comes there, and then all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up, and I'll wake up because they're like, "Oh, you're up earlier today. You just posted a video." I'm like, "No, I set it to automatically post at this time." No, it's not because I'm awake, but I do get a kick out of that. So,
yes.
Let's see. Buddy Holly asks, Phil, is there a website or a way? Oh, don't skip ahead. Here we go. A website or a way to find out the number of special run guitars were made. Example, Monterey Strat from Fender a few years back. They're going for double on Reverb 2 years later.
So with Fender, you can call customer service, and sometimes they'll tell you. It's not a hard thing to do. They'll put you on hold for a few minutes, and you'll get through. You give them the serial number and all the information, and they sometimes can tell you how many are made. And I say sometimes because sometimes they won't. So when they say they can't, it's because they won't. Fender is a special little problem because not only do sometimes they don't disclose how many is made in a limited run, but they also do them non-sequentially, which is another nightmare. That is a very Fender thing to do. I have not seen too many other companies do it. I'm sure they all do, or not all, but I'm sure bunches that do it. But Fender does it. And when I say Fender, I mean that would call it for EVH, that counts for Jackson. So if Fender makes a limited run of guitars, let's say the serial numbers, let's say in theory the serial numbers are 1,000. They're going to make 1,000, then 1,000. They go 1,000 to 2,000. The first one out the door of the factory might be actually like 1,993, right? And then the next one will be 1,416. They do that because they don't want you to know which one's the first ones, because then people start posting like the first one of 10, which is why I always chuckle sometimes when people are like, "Oh, serial number 111 of Fender, it's the first 10 batch." And you're like, well, that doesn't actually mean that. It just means it's the first serial number batch. So these companies aren't stupid. They figure out how the scalping kind of happens on Reverb and eBay, and over the years they've gone. But in your case, I would call Fender customer service and ask them, give them the serial number and say, "Hey, can you tell me how many were made?" And so if it's in their database, they'll do it. The problem with Fender, with all these companies, for those of you guys that are in other fields where it's really professional, the music industry is not super professional.
And that's what I love about it.
Fender, Fender, who is a $400 or $500 million company. I don't know what they're worth now, probably 800 million, but they were like 400, 500 million. One of the biggest behemoths in our industry. We're using antiquated AS400 software and systems. In fact, Fender was so antiquated forever that they used to not. If you remember, where you get a Fender product and you'd open up and there'd be a warranty card,
right?
And you'd fill it out. If you were really paying attention, you look. It didn't say warranty card. It said customer form, right? And you would send it in. It would just they would have this card on you, but there wasn't like a warranty card to fill out. And it's because Fender didn't have a database to collect everybody's names and information for warranty. So what they would do is, just to keep things easy, is they would use what they send it to stores, right? So like, let's say flip side, like Ike would buy a Fender amp, and they know on the invoice that the amp was sold to Flipside in 2019 in February, right? And now maybe Ike didn't sell it for 6 months until after that. But if the customer had a warranty issue, the customer could use their receipt, which is what Fender wanted. But if the customer lost the receipt, Fender would still honor the warranty, as long as the customer knew to call customer service and say, that's a little trick from Fender, by the way. If you ever lose your receipt and you go to a warranty center and they go, oh, you don't have a receipt and we can't do it, you can call Fender customer service with your serial number on your Fender product and find the dealer that had it and get the date the dealer bought it, and they can go off the warranty from that date.
Nice.
And it's because, and I'm just saying, and of course things can change. They may have updated in the last couple of years because they did go to a Oracle database at some point. But my point is that this whole industry, I mean, you understand, is it really been pushed really hard to update, considering to this day, I would love to say like, oh, up until 10 years ago, up until right now, there are still hundreds of large dealers across the United States still doing paper carbon receipt invoices and no POS software to be seen. No, right? There's still like one of the things I hated about the store was we had to have a fax machine for the manufacturers, right? Because they had to fax us things. Yeah. And we eventually got the software, you know, where they fax it to you and it's an email format for you. And right. Then, you know, and then, but it's because, it's because the dealer network doesn't want to, you know, it's an older network. So, so that's why I'm telling you that stuff. So you understand why, when you call them, why they may or may not have information. But for something like that, I would call them.
Yep. Yeah. And it's funny because, well, you think in our industry too, quite a bit of it, like you say, the Brian Wamplers and, you know, like Brian, he's probably got some beautiful database system now to track sales, but talk to him a few years ago when he was at Lawrence's level, where Lawrence is still handwriting serial numbers on stuff, and you know, and
right. Well, think about this. I mean, let's just call it out for what it's worth. Guitar Center, you can't go. Guitar Center is the largest retailer in the country. Okay, they are physically. They have the most stores. They're the largest. They're still the largest. Yep. Sweetwater's probably second now because of COVID. We'll see what happens. And of course, then Sam Ash. Think of how funny this is. I can go on guitarcenter.com right now, look up a product, and they have no way to tell me if the store, I have 5 Guitar Centers in my area. There's no way for them to tell me if that's any of those 5 stores have it.
Right.
You can go to Best Buy, you can go to Walmart, you can go, like, I can go to any website and be like, I want a toaster, and it'll be like, there's 3 in stock.
You don't have to go into the store to find out. You can have an app on your phone to tell you which Walmart has the barbecue you want.
Yeah. You can go to homedepot.com and be like, I need a bucket and 3 screws. And they'll be like, well, this store has it. This store has 16. This store's out. And then I can drive there. So even Guitar Center, who does have printed receipts and information, obviously they're still not up to date yet with the world that we're in.
Yep. All right. Doug's got to head out. Oh, Doug hit 200 subs finally. Awesome. He says he's got to make a celebration video. And he says, to all 195 people watching, Tuesday night for NAS Canucks, which is my cousin Doug and I do a NASCAR-themed podcast on Tuesday night. It's called NAS Canucks.
They had NASCAR.
You know, I'm not busy enough.
Now, this is how naive I am. Do they have NASCAR in Canada, or is it the American NASCAR and you're watching that? Well,
in the world of NASCAR, there's 3 big series. Out of that, the bottom of the 3 runs 1 race a year in Canada. well, pre-COVID, they ran one race a year in Canada. It's a start. We also have a NASCAR Canada series, which is about 5 rungs below. But we've both been lifetime NASCAR fans, and we decided rather than talking about it on the phone every week, let's start a podcast about it. And
that's smart.
so why not?
I don't know anything about NASCAR. I know this. I know a NASCAR joke. How do you keep a NASCAR fan entertained? How? Put Skittles in the toilet and flush.
I like it. That's why it's funny because somebody mentioned like my Canucks show. You have so many sponsors. You got Tesi Switch and Flipside Music. I was like, I come from the world of NASCAR where we just, there it is, and I'm thinking, and guitar players, they've always endorsed the bejesus out of everything. If you can get an endorsement for something, a guitar player will take it, from guitar, amp, pedals, cables, picks, strings. They don't care.
Well, sponsorship's a great idea. Retail sponsorship is the best idea. That's why Flipside's smart.
Yes.
It's taken a while for Sweetwater. I mean, let's be clear. Sweetwater and Tolman, they've jumped on. Sam Ash is playing with it. Guitar Center still doesn't know what YouTube is. They haven't figured it out that it exists. It's a thing on the internet. I'm sure they're sure of it. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. For us, the retailers make the most sense because it gives you the most diverse product to pull from, and you don't have to pull a certain alliance with a certain brand. Tesi Switch, again, parts companies are another great thing. That's why I've done a lot of work with like Graph Tech and like you and everybody else. Parts companies are great because it doesn't matter. Everyone's going to use some kind of part at some point. You know what I mean? So
I agree on that. And it's great working with the Flipside guys. If you want to check out Flipside Music, there's an affiliate link down below in the description. They're like, hey, you were interested in doing an affiliate program? I'm like, heck yes.
Yes, affiliate programs are fantastic. It's a great. I like them, but
Well, and the way I see it, it's not really any shill type thing. It's like, if you folks are going to buy the gear anyways, and you're going to buy it, say, from Ike at Flipside anyways, it doesn't cost you anything more. It just means Ike's going to go, hey, because obviously Ben sent them this way, so let's shoot Ben a couple of bucks. Okay.
Right.
Sure. Works for me. All right. Let's see, any last questions here? Somebody asking Tesi about some switches. Nice. Wow, 158 thumbs ups tonight. Nice. And hello, Fret Level Midnight. I saw you made a reference to the Killer Dwarves band earlier. If you want to hear more about that, I can tell that story on tomorrow night's show on Canucks with Guitars, the night I open for the Killer Dwarves.
You have Cool Tunes Made Easy to the Super Chat, so do you see it?
Oh, yeah, I did have that up, and then I'll put it up again, yes. Awesome live chat tonight, Ben and Philip. Cheers, guys. Cool Tunes Made Easy, YouTube. Nice.
Thank you.
And I saw with the denomination there, fellow Canuck. Cool Tunes Made Easy. Hey, Gray Vanzini. He says, dang nap. Well, you got something to watch now.
Lane Tucker asked, Phil, did you buy a custom shop Les Paul? Yeah, I own 2 of them. There is a change coming in the channels that actually is happening this weekend. I don't know if I did talk about this on my show. I don't think I did. I may have talked about it. It's coming. It happened this weekend. You don't even know. No one's going to know. You're going to have to pay really close attention if I didn't tell you. So my channel is no longer called Phillip McKnight. It's called Know Your Gear. The channel name changed. It's already changed.
Okay.
If you go to the channel, it's already been changed. No one's going to notice it. And if you search, it won't matter because it didn't search. Think of this. I never had a Know Your Gear channel, and people would type in Know Your Gear, and it would literally come to me because of Google. Google drives where everybody goes, and that's where everybody's going. And that was kind of the reasoning for that. My Phil McKnight 2 channel, which will now just be Phil McKnight, that changes tomorrow. The reason is for that. I do buy personal things. Like my custom shop Les Pauls, or I have a crazy Kiesel that I bought, and my weird PRS that I ordered last year, and I never did videos. And the reason being is because, like I said, I try to make content on the channel that's interesting to what the audience is after. You know what I mean? And I didn't find that those things were very interesting to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was because I bought it at a store, and the store put a picture of me with it on their Facebook, and then some viewers were like, saw it, and they were like, "Oh, you got a new Les Paul." I actually got like an RO and an R9, and I don't know. And then maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people dig it. I don't know, Ben. Do you think that stuff's interesting? I don't know what's interesting, other than the only thing I find interesting is why I bought them. Maybe that would be interesting to people.
I found with this crowd, just about anything could be interesting. I remember having a discussion on Nesdal's channel one night of neck tenons, short neck tenons versus long neck tenons. I'm like, are we at that point, Phil? Are we at that point where that's what we're discussing and the total differences between them? And we're like, why not discuss it? That's
you have to discuss all of it. I think. I mean, it's not, some of it, I guess, is not interesting, but I think all of it's pretty crazy interesting. Like I said, I'm on a pickup project that I've been on for a while, and that's what the guitar's for. It's for me personally for a pickup project.
Right. Which actually that ties into something that somebody brought up earlier, and I kind of threw it out there a couple months ago. What do you think the next boom type thing? What's going to be the next big thing in the guitar world? And I think it's going to be boutique pickup builders. The way we had pedal builders in the last 10 years, I think pickup builders is going to be the next big thing.
They're already kind of a thing. We'll see. The problem with pickups right now is this stuff. Wire, man. Wire. All this wire. You know what I mean? Like I have so many different, I have tons of it. But it's so expensive right now and so hard to get.
Right.
So it's problematic. I will say this. The problem is the same problem that Lawrence has. The problem is when you make something by hand by a person, volume is your enemy.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you can only make so many. It takes me to wind a single coil pickup, just to wind it takes me about 5 to 6 minutes to wind a pickup. So that's just me in front of the winder. And then you figure maybe a minute to thread it. So say 7 minutes, and then solder the 2 wires. And then I use special plates on the bottom of mine, plate it, and then solder that. Then I have to epoxy the plate, and then I wax pot it. Mm-hmm. So I think all that, let's say 15 minutes. Right? Doesn't sound like a lot of time, right? But that means 3 single coil pickups is 45 minutes, so an hour. Well, I can only work an 8-hour day, realistically. You know what I mean? So you see how many sets I can make? Right. And so trend-wise, I think it will be big. Our trend, you know what I mean? Like you said, I agree. They're popping. But I have a lot of friends who make pickup. Obviously, William Wiggins is a really good friend, and he makes pickups. And he's in the same... We're all in the same boat. You can only physically make so many. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it gets dangerous. You can get 300 orders and you're like, okay, well, that takes me 3 months to make.
Yeah. So what do I do? Stop taking orders for the next 3 months, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. What I'm really interested in is I think the next trend. So I had this video that I just did recently. I don't know when it comes out, but it's a bunch of luthiers, repair guys for a university in California that teaches lutherie. And it's like Dan Earlywine, Michael Tobias, and a bunch of others. I just mentioned them too because they're the two I was talking the most. I think the next big trend is obviously the modding guitars we're seeing, but I think repurposing inexpensive guitars is going to be next.
I can see that. Definitely.
Yep. I think Station Unrest says, why don't you have a video winding pickups? I don't have a video teaching to wind pickups. There's not, I don't know. It's one of the things. I don't know. I guess I should say the answer is I don't know. I don't know. That's again why I created a second channel. That way I can, the whole point of the second channel for me is no editing.
Right.
Editing is where all the time, when people are like, why don't you make more videos? I can make 1,000 videos if I just turn on a camera. Like right now, we're hanging out, right? This
Mhm.
video, we've been on here for 2.5 hours. That sounds like a long time. I can't make a video that you guys watch anything close to that. It takes a minimum. The Reverend video was a minimum of 3 full 8-hour days. That's what it took. It took 7 hours of editing for that video. And so that I can only do that so many videos a week if I do that. So
Sure.
I wanted to create a second channel so I can just turn on the camera, and if I'm, if I get up and and walk away for a minute, come back, and I guess that's what's in the video. You know what I mean? Or
I've done that in videos and not edited it out on purpose, because I know folks mentioned that, like, editing videos. I was doing a repair video the other day. I want to check neck relief and I didn't have the capo. I just left the film running because it's the next room right here. And I walk out, came in here, grabbed a capo, came back because I knew it would take 20 seconds. And I thought, you know what? For comedic value, I'm going to leave that 20 seconds of you just looking at my workbench, because why not? And I want to shout out, new name in the chat. I know you love to shout out, there's some really cool names. Biscuit Ranch Productions. I'm
Nice.
sold. Biscuit Ranch Productions. I love it.
Stephen Douglas saying, I think parts caster is the next big thing. I agree. Like I said, I think what's going to happen is we're seeing it in every other industry, right? People taking shipping containers and turning them into houses.
Sure.
Right. People taking all kinds of things and repurposing them into something else. Yes. I think, can you mod a Strat? Can you get a Squire and put new pickups in it? Sure. But I think what's going to be really interesting is when somebody takes because look at this. I can go in right now in this guitar boom, right? This boom of, I can't even find a guitar apparently. I can walk right now into 10 stores and there'll be rows of all kinds of cheap guitars, right? Guitars that physically you can't buy parts, right? I can't buy a set of pickups for the price of some of these guitars I see, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say, for perfect example. In fact, I have one behind me. There's a Squire Showmaster behind me. Okay, that guitar was made in, I want to say, early 2000s. It's made in China though, whatever that means. And 24 frets. It's got a Floyd Rose licensed bridge. Sure. Could you put a real Floyd Rose in it? Could you, put some new pickups in it? You can mod it. Sure. But I think where the future is going, the next big trend will be somebody will take that guitar and literally turn it into something else. Like change the headstock shape, change the name on the headstock. You know what I mean? Put a veneer over the top, change it into a thing, and literally start selling them online. And so, I've already seen this. There's a ton of people doing it right now, to some degree, right? But the reason being is, imagine if you can buy I want you to picture this in your head. Picture a $100 Squire guitar, and somebody has refretted it with stainless steel frets, changed the neck shape, made it perfect, right? Changed the body, put a new paint job on it, put new pickups, change the body shape a little bit, contoured it a little better, just made it into something new. Yep. And now that guitar is going to be $700. And that sounds crazy in your head because you're like, who the hell would buy that? But then think about this. How else could you buy that?
Right.
You're buying a guitar that has all the hand.
And you're describing something we saw, in the car industry in the 60s. You could buy a Mustang, or there was a Shelby Mustang that had all the hot parts on it. And that's the same idea. Yeah. And I want to thank Arthur Gonzalez. Thank you very much. He says a little something to help support the rockin'. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Arthur.
So I think that would be cool. I think that'll be a thing. And then back to like making pickups. I don't know if making pickups. The problem with pickups is pickups are they're like I said, the parts right now, components to make pickups are expensive.
Right.
They just are.
Barring supply issues, I was thinking that'll be because you can pick up a pickup winder. It's as simple as being able to make a circuit board or figure out a circuit on a pegboard with a soldering iron, whatever. Someone like Lawrence, someone gets into pickups. Beyond that, I don't know. We're going to get boutique guitar pick manufacturers. We kind of see that, but widespread, I don't think so. Nobody's making strings. We know that. That's big money.
I'm just looking at.
A few people got some builds on the go.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that. Janice is back. Nice. Oh, and something to touch on from your show on Friday. You had mentioned you and Nathan were talking about the Fender Pawn Shop Series amps.
Yep.
That would be my Greta branded 1x12 cab with the Greta amp head is my workbench amp now.
Yeah. See, it was like I said, it was an interesting time in their company, and now it's a unique amp.
Yep. Which I still need to shoot a demo for, because for that brief period in time, Shane did a demo on the Greta head, but there is no YouTube demo on the head with the extension cab in use.
Oh.
So why not? Hey, Eldron, go in the chat. Good to see Eldron.
Is Eldron here? Look
Yep.
at that. That's awesome. Hi, Eldron.
Nice. 177 thumbs up, 224 watching. Wow.
Aaron
Awesome.
says, hey, has Phil ever tried making a pickup with substantially heavier wire than traditional used? I have experimented a little bit that way. However, what I really do is what everyone does, is you try to recreate things that you like and try to figure out what it is that you can do, you know what I mean, to them.
Right.
My pickup endeavors are all about, I really love the Tele Bridge pickup. I've always liked that pickup. I've always liked, it's like the P90. I've always been a P90 fan. I like single coils that punch. And so that's where I spent a lot of effort trying to recreate that as all kinds of other forms of pickup. You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah.
Hello, Shred the Gnar and Addicted to Gear. A couple of cool cats. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I think, yeah, you're on a pickup. And you're like Tele. I need to get you a set of my Tele pickups, my signature Tele pickups.
Who makes them? Do you know who makes them?
Reno Fin. My buddy Travis out in Victoria, British Columbia. Very Canadian. All Canadian sourced parts go into them. Everything, I think, except for the neck pickup cover. I don't think he can get those sourced in Canada yet. But the magnets, the wire, he makes his own bobbins. And they're basically, you know, he's like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know, based off a 53 Tele set. So, you know, something that's nice and
yeah, a little chime, a little brightness.
Yeah,
right?
trying bright, but not too underwound. That's too glassy, which I do like too. But and because I needed a set of pickups for my 71 Tele, the original pickups were failing in it, and I was like, I'm going to replace them both. I want to keep it traditional sounding. I'm like, can you make these up? And he's like, boom, they were in the mail a week later. So
yeah, it's nice. Trying to think. There's a couple pickups I just tried recently. It's weird because there's so many pickups out there. It goes for days. And like what's funny about pickups is there's literally only so many ways you can make them. No matter how crazy people get, and they get pretty crazy with them.
Oh yeah.
There's only so many ways I like I said to do them. But the only thing about pickups that you learn that's really easy. There's only one to me thing that I follow for pickups that I think really fit is this. And this is the way I like to explain it too. The hand wound pickups are still the best. And that's because of all these weird anomalies that happen when winding a pickup. To the point where every time somebody goes, oh, I made these pickups, Phil, and they're really good, and they explain to me and they send them to me, I always know they're probably going to be pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. Because of the hand winding. And the reason I really started buying into that is because of this really kind of side thought that I have, which is even when companies use winders, you know, like big manufacturers, they try to get winders to simulate what hand winding is doing.
Right.
And that's a big tell when you think about it, because no companies are trying to get programmed CNC machines to make mistakes. Right. Right.
Yeah,
no
exactly. When you're writing out the body, just take a little extra here.
Just mess up a little bit because there's magic in that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there is a little bit of that. And then, of course, it really comes down to just using the right magnets, using the right wire. When I say right, I don't mean the best. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of emphasis on that. You know, but it's really cool. I don't know. So just something I get into. Mostly I get into it because of the fact that that's the thing I first learned, how you make cheap guitars sound good.
Right.
making guitars play good, that's what you do with your hands, right? You work on them, you round frets, you round the neck, you set the action, you find a way to get the guitar play great. Then there was this argument of like, well, how do you get a guitar to sound great? And pickups are a big part of that.
Sure.
So.
Sure. All right. Well, let's take one more question here. I don't want to take up your whole evening here, Phil. And I think Craig Tomlinson has a good one here because I like to, cover a lot of bases. And let's do a bass question. Speaking of bases.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for a replacement pickup for a MIM P bass? The factory pickup seems a little hot to my ears.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you don't like it because it's growling too much. Well, there's a couple things. First of all, you could always look at any of the vintage style pickups that Fender makes or any of the other aftermarket companies make. Obviously, if you're not digging that pickup, you're not going to like the quarter pounders that Seymour makes, which are really popular aftermarket pickups for P bass. I personally, like I said, for bass pickups, I really lean towards the Bartolini stuff. I love the Barts. I just think he's got a really great way of making pickups, and they sound really good. And they're pretty realistically priced. That's another thing I like. I like the pickups that are. I like I said, obviously I try them all, and there's no real qualifier for why somebody should charge what they charge for a pickup. But generally speaking, if it's a mass-produced pickup by a big company, I don't like it when it's super expensive because, you know what I mean? The whole point of mass-producing is to get the price down. But that being said, those are two I would definitely check out for sure. But my favorite, and it's just because I want you to know, my favorite set of pickups are the Billy Sheehan pickups that DiMarzio made. I absolutely love them, but I'm a little scared to recommend them to you because they are going to be close to that in the way that they punch. But man, they have a lot of definition and they look great and they feel great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and I see a few +1s here for the Bartolinis. So I agree. Bartolinis always they make great products.
Oh yeah. They definitely
great stuff. So awesome. Well, let's see. We've gone a little over 2.5 hours. Do you have any parting words, comments, concerns, my friend?
Concerns?
I don't. Recaps? I don't know.
Concerns. Well, there is. I don't know. No, I don't have. I just want to thank you for having me come hang out. Thank everybody for hanging out with us. That was really cool. Like I said, it's nice to see some new faces or new names. I don't see faces. Sometimes you see faces in the emoji.
Yes.
And then also to see some old friends as well, which is cool.
That's true. I can say I've seen new subscribers in here tonight. So if you are new, please subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a thumbs up. We hit 187 thumbs ups, I think somebody had said. Amazing. I think we definitely have to do this again, my friend, and not wait a year and a half.
Was it a year and a half ago? I don't even know.
A year and a half.
Time anymore.
And I realized I have the worst timing because if you look at our text thread, a lot of it is, hey, man, you want to come on the show? You're like, I'm busy because it's Valentine's Day.
Well, that was Valentine's. Last time you asked me, you're like, hey, you want to come on? I'm like, no, it's Valentine's Day. And you're like, oh, yeah, it is. I'm like, yeah, there's no way. Like I said, Sunday's my one day off. So there's no way I was going to take the one day off of Valentine's Day and tell my wife, like, hey, I'm going to go hang out and talk about guitar. That's something new.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, right. So that happens. So definitely, we will definitely have to do it again. And if you haven't already, check out Phil's channel. He does the Know Your Gear podcast. Actually, the Know Your Gear channel.
Yeah.
With the Know Your Gear podcast every Friday at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. You're on Pacific time, actually, or?
I have no idea.
Arizona time. They don't even change. Sometimes they're 2 behind, sometimes 3. I like that idea. I get rid of this daylight savings, please. They do it for the farmers, I guess. Well, there we are.
Yeah.
Sure. There we go.
Yeah.
Phil lives in a desert. They're like, we're not farming anything. We're not changing the time. I think that's what happened. So I want to definitely thank everybody that tuned in tonight, as always. So hold the line, Phil. We got a little closing, and then we'll talk off air, as of course. Now I'm just rambling. Want to shout out the Mod Squad. Thanks, guys, tonight posting links to this, that, and the other thing. Can't forget the other thing. It was awesome to see Flipside and Tesi and Lawrence in here, some of the longtime supporters of me as well as the channel, which is awesome. Check out those guys. Buy something even if you got extra bucks. If you don't have the extra bucks, put it towards cold snacks or something. I'm not sure. Because summer's coming. So as always, folks, hold those doors open. Let that guy in ahead of you in traffic. Do good things, and good things will happen to you because karma is real. I'm living the dream. Phil's living the dream. I hope you are too. Cheers, rock on. I'll be back tomorrow night with Canucks with Guitars.